Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to the Leadership Academy August 23rd, 2021 session. It's been a crazy time, I think, not just for me, but for all of us. And so I'm just going to ask everybody to give each other grace today. And if I could virtually hug you right now, I'm going to just give everyone a hug because I personally need hugs. It's been a very, very challenging time, like really challenging. So on top of everything else, it never is just like one little thing or two little things. It's like a whole bunch of things at once. So I do have a technician coming from DirecTV. My main TV has been out since last week, and the only window they had was 12 to 4, and he just came on and said that he was like 30 minutes away. So during that time, I'll have you do something or, take a little break or talk amongst yourselves or something, just so I can let him in the door and let him access the TV. I don't think it's going to be a complicated issue because I think that it's just really old coax cable. So, and I am trying something for the first time. I'm trying to share a screen, a PowerPoint. Do you guys see it right now? And the first thing that I'm trying is closed captioning. And so it doesn't always get things right, but I figured as long as we have all people who are not hearing impaired, it's the perfect time to give it a try and see how it works for us. Is everyone okay with that?
I see it and your PowerPoint.
Perfect. All right. So I'm really, really glad you're here. And I appreciate you taking the time to complete the survey. Everyone who's on here completed the survey. The only person who did not is Carly. And if you get a chance to reach out to Carly, I told her that everyone misses her. She's just been overwhelmed with working and trying to raise her son and dodging COVID and all kinds of things in her life. So I think she's just completely overwhelmed. And I feel very strongly that the Leadership Academy would help her so much if she would just if she would just make time, because none of us ever have enough hours in the day to do what we want to do, right? And it's just a matter of prioritizing ourselves on that list of things that we need to do. And notice I said need instead of have to. A lot of it is, choices that we need to make. So same ground rules as always. I would love for someone to sing a song though. And yeah, so let's just kind of do a check-in with everybody and see how you're doing. Anything new to share, any positive changes, and how are your mentor pairings going? And I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this point so we can see you. And I'll ask Nanette to go first since she was first on.
Absolutely. So my mentor pairing, as you know, you're a magician, Gabrielle, is going really well. My sweet lady was, she had been exposed to COVID. So she was kind of down and out for a bit, didn't have it, but was not feeling well. So we're supposed to meet up, here in the next few weeks, but we've been having good conversations and we touch base with each other, which is really kind of delightful because it's one of those like surprise and delights, when you hear from each other, you're like, yeah, hello, I forgot about you for a moment. I'm so excited you're in my life. So thank you so much for that. And we covered a lot of ground because we combined our first and second meetings into one longer. And so that has been a good 8 weeks now, but we'll get back there. So yeah, so thank you for your magic and bringing us together. And I'm excited to see her again. And it's just really nice to have another totally different perspective from a powerful, smart leader who's, worked and been in your academy before. She has a few years of perspective now after having been. So thank you very much for pairing us up. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and Charlotte's awesome. And I know Jackie knows her well. So
yeah. She speaks highly of Jackie. So that's really wonderful.
I know. Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, so, they're a great team over there.
So, Nanette, anything else going on in your life that you want to share?
I mean, no, just trying to keep my head above water. I'm like with the rest of you, we're all trying to keep our families safe, try to make good decisions, try to eat right, exercise, and so thank you for, keeping that at the forefront on our one-on-one and your leadership coaching session. It's been really challenging. It's been a week and a half since I've done anything 30 minutes or more of exercise. So, I've got to get back on that track. So,
Definitely.
the daily struggles.
That's what I was just talking about with, you got to make yourself a priority. So my hair is wet because I went for a bike ride this morning. I had to ride my bike. I had to. And I'll tell you, for me, it's a way of managing physical and emotional pain is exercise. And so I knew that I was going to be getting the third booster shot. And so I intentionally took myself off of methotrexate, which is a cancer drug also used to treat rheumatoid arthritis. And so I've been in excruciating pain since stopping it. It'll be worth it if the third vaccination takes. But I've been in a lot of pain. And the only time I'm getting relief from the pain is when I'm physically moving. It's like the endorphins just kind of take over and I don't feel the pain as much. I feel much better and I get a relief from it after. So
how long does that work? Does that keep you pain-free for most of the day?
So it depends on the activity level. So cycling gives me about 2 to 3 hours of relief. Scuba diving, if I dive nitrox, which is enriched oxygen, it gives me up to 8 hours of relief, maybe sometimes even 10, depending on how many dives I did. Yeah, so and running gives me about maybe 3 hours of relief. Walking, maybe an hour and a half, so yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I've noticed a tremendous difference. So cycling is something I try to do almost every day. And every day I force myself to, even when I feel awful, I'm like, I need to do activity because I'm going to feel better. And then emotionally, my goodness, it's just been, it's been overwhelming lately with emotions. And I have the 20th anniversary of 9/11 coming up also. So I'm supposed to go to New York, but I'm going to the transplant specialist at the Mayo Clinic on Wednesday, and I'm going to let him decide for me if I should go. I'm hoping he'll say yes. I need to see my best friend. I need to be there for healing, but we'll see. So.
Very
All
good.
right.
Well, keep us updated as to what they say if they give.
Yeah, I will. I am planning a little scuba trip, and which it should give me a lot of relief because I'm going to do 8 dives in 3 days. After I leave the Mayo Clinic, I'm heading on down to South Florida to just get 3 days of diving in, which should make a huge difference. And I haven't had a day off in a few months, so it'll be nice. And the reason I haven't had a day off is I have a nonprofit organization also, so I'm just doing a lot of that, which is very rewarding and awesome, but I do need a little bit of a pause button break. So.
I am very glad you're listening to your own advice.
Yes, I wish I would listen to it more. All right, let's go with Joy next. She was second online.
Guys, I don't like getting online without my makeup done, so
you look great.
You look beautiful.
It's just one of those days. But anyway,
It's deliberate.
Heather and I are supposed to be getting together in the next day or two, and so I look forward to that meeting. And as far as positives, our granddaughter Vivi was in the hospital for 2 days with a really bad viral infection, so they weren't able to give her any medications or anything. So that was pretty scary, but she tested negative for everything, COVID and RSV and all that kind of stuff. So we're just blessed that after a couple bags of fluids, she's back on the mend. So that's a good thing. So it looks like Gabrielle had to get up and let him in.
Oh yeah, she did. Nice call. Up there she is. Up 1 minute. Yep. And you look beautiful without makeup on. Do not ever fret about makeup.
Oh, thank
Always.
you.
And I am so sorry. I had to get that. I am so sorry. And I heard you talking about your friend who died of COVID, right? Is that
No,
what you're-
I was talking about the positives being that our granddaughter was really sick and in the hospital for a couple days, but
Oh, wow.
she
Oh, wow.
tested negative for RSV and COVID and strep and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a nasty virus that, yeah, so they
But
can't
you
give her anything
also,
for it,
you
but
also know somebody who just died and who was pretty young of COVID.
yeah, he wasn't even 40 yet. So it's very surreal. But
I'm
it
so
is what it
sorry.
is, you know?
Yeah.
Hey,
Um,
Heather.
Heather's back. I'm making a couple of you co-hosts in case something happens. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just a crazy day and I'm going to try to find my mask. So I don't have to put the icky one, the dirty one on, but
And no, don't apologize. Remember our show with
I
Heather?
know, but it's not like me to answer the phone while taking,
Yeah.
while teaching a class, but it's just kind of insane right now. So
You gave us a heads up and we have to do life. So
thank you. I know. I appreciate it. I'm like, if anyone understands, it's these ladies. They're amazing. And so Joy, did you mention your mentor pairing?
Yeah, I said that Heather and I are supposed to get together in the next day or two now that her moving is done. So
Yeah,
we're looking forward
good.
to that.
Good. Thank you so much. Let's see. Jackie was on next, I think, and then Heather.
Can everyone hear me? Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Awesome. So for the mentor pairing, Tanya and I, we met virtually. My son had COVID beginning of the month. So thankfully honestly, it was just a congested nose. And we would have never had him tested had another kid in his daycare came up positive, because I mean he's a daycare kid. He always has a runny nose. So we're thankful that we did have him tested so we can prevent any further spreading. And that's pretty sorry, I'm going off topic. So Tanya and I met and we talked a lot about readjusting some of the goals that I had set. As we talked a lot about in this class, I tend to overfill my plate and it's been really getting to me. So, I made the decision to, pull back on some of my goals, and I was having a tough time with them or with that realization. And Tanya helped me through it and talked about, you're just, how does she phrase it? You're adapting to your new situation and, you're not saying that this isn't, that you failed the goal. You're just postponing it and you're reevaluating your goals, as time goes on, which is something we should constantly be doing. So, it was a really good meeting. And
I always say, Jackie, by the way, I always say a dream delayed is not a dream denied.
Yeah.
And so it's perfectly okay. And I love Tanya. Tanya's going through some pretty big stuff right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's actually, with her mother, who she thought was going to be in hospice care, but is apparently not as bad as she thought, but she's down there trying to, sort things out with her mother. So, whew, yeah. But I'm so glad that you're enjoying your pairing with her and that you're taking her advice. She's very, very wise, she's
yes.
really good.
There's always a different way of seeing things. And I enjoy her view. And then it's just, I don't know if it's, the cycle of the moon or something, but I feel like we all just have been like really off. We went through one of those, when it rains, it pours kind of situations. And we really just kept trying to like find the silver lining in things, which helped. Our car broke down as we were coming back from being tested for COVID. And it was like, oh, well, thank goodness we have that savings account and we have friends that can, help jump the car. And so it's just, it was like 3 weeks of that, of just constant one after another. And we're like, okay, when are we going to give now? But like I said, it just gave us opportunity to find things to be thankful for. So, and
You get your
being
car
cooped up
fixed?
in the, we did. It was a alternator. So it was
Relatively minor.
yes, could have been so much worse. And we're just like, well, that's why we don't have a car payment, so that we could put money aside for car repairs. So it's been interesting. It's been good. So that's all I got for you ladies.
Aw, thank you. Heather, newly moved. Look at the photos in the images in the background, already looking like you are settled. Impressive.
Yeah, it's nice because even before my room was with everything like in my closet, it's been feeling disorganized. So it's finally nice to just like have a space that I can relax in. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy for me too, but some positives out of it was the week before I went on vacation. So like kind of a leadership positive was a good testing week for me because my boss and the other person who I think I've mentioned in this before, he's a little bit more on the aggressive side and taking charge. They were both out on vacation. So it was like roads were clear to try to just, tackle with whatever came up, see how I could handle that. And I think overall it went pretty well. There was a few things as far as what I needed to do to reach out to my boss in regards to something that was time sensitive, so that can wait. But other than that, she really liked to save time on verbally catching up with her and stuff like that, because I knew it would be hours. I just wrote her an email report update and also an email report of like what I delegated for when I went on vacation. So it wasn't going to be, oh God, who does this, who does what? It was already predetermined. So it was a good time for me to test some of the leadership skills. And I think I did pretty good because she loved the reporting. She said it gave her the nitty gritty. She knew it was being handled. I also was able to delegate it to my staff. They knew exactly what they needed to do to put it on their schedule. And weirdly enough, it was nice not to be missed, but slightly missed. Like they missed my fun personalityness in the office, but everything else went all right. Catching up on gazillion emails of things I was tagged in, but yeah, so it's kind of weird that I was able to leave and not like, oh my God, everything blew up and, or it might have been like that before. So some positives out of, moving vacation and stuff. And then of course it was time away
Good
from the
job.
office.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Gabrielle, call that I do need to hop onto. We have somebody else out of the office that was originally on the call, so I do need to step away. I hope it's only a half hour, so I should be back on, but other than that, that was kind of the big positives, and of course the move was the big thing on my plate. So that's done, so hopefully I can get back to some other goals that I've got going on that Joy, I will be updating you on.
Oh.
So
Great. I thank you. And I really like your update, including your use of email to inform your boss. I think that's great. I did have to turn my camera off because I was getting an internet connection unstable message. And so I was like missing, 5 or 10 seconds at a time, everyone locked up, and I didn't want to get booted off of my own, my own call here. So, but yeah, I just think you're doing fantastic, Heather, with your leadership. And it is a nice feeling, but kind of strange sometimes when you're not missed, right? It means you're doing a really good job, but innately we want to say like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have been missed. But I think you just got to keep it up. You're doing great, and all this in the midst of a move is super impressive.
And then one last update. I found out this morning that apparently I have 2 new staff in my program department. So
Oh wow.
very big surprise on the way back.
Oh wait, people who you're going to supervise?
Yeah, so I've got
Ooh.
one person, she has become a contractor because it's post baby, so she's trying to figure out how that goes. So we kind of had a person leave while we were looking for somebody else, and we magically found 2 people last week that just fit the bill. So I'm very excited to get fully staffed, if not additional staff I wasn't expecting. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Really,
Crazy.
really good. Okay. So, all right. So I'm a little concerned to turn my video back on. So I'm just going to keep it off for now, and we'll see how things go. So yeah, I wanted to, let's see if I can pull up that survey to kind of see what everyone said. Let's see here. Go back to, okay. Basic. Where is it? Okay, I've got too many windows open. I'm trying to share the correct thing here. Well, I'll just share my, there, no, that's DEI. There it is. I found it. Okay, my goodness. I only have like 40 windows open. Okay, can you guys see that? Can you see? Okay, perfect. So what are your biggest challenges with communication? Clarity and succinctness, effectively wording things, can be too passive, and ensuring the message is received as intended. Okay. This was interesting because you guys were all over the place about what's important and what's not. So I still think that when we're covering things that are important to some people, that those of you who didn't think it was important will have contributions. But you can see in-person communication was pretty high on the importance list. Social media was not, although one person said very important. Phone communication was on the high end. Email, 3 of you said extremely and 1 said somewhat. Fundraising, communication, not super high, kind of in the middle. Marketing, same. Online communication, on the high importance level. Other, okay. And okay, other will be down below. All right. Any scenarios? Being organized with thoughts and communicating with clarity. Email correspondence. We're going to get to that. Joy has email that she's going to share. And anything you'd like to add? Gee, I know. Thank you, Nanette. You always write the sweetest things, like gorgeous, and
these are true things.
You are always so kind. Next, I would really benefit from being able to decipher what is direct, what is tactful, what is too soft, what is rude. And I love that. I think that, that's what I see the most issues with in business communication, is even from people who are excellent communicators, that email communication gets people in trouble. And it goes both ways, right? We get things that just upset us, and we send things, and other people seem to be upset, and it's very confusing sometimes. So I'll help you decipher that. And that's it. So pretty good. Anything else you'd like to add before we get into it? All right. Does everyone have the handout packet? The first page is an assessment, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay, when the technician comes, which should be in the next 10, 15 minutes, I'll have you work on that. Go ahead and fill out the assessment, which is really short. And you know, I just need to point him in the direction of the TV, which is, I have a really small, you know, home with a small, it's easy to find. It's right in front of my face. So it shouldn't take me very long. Okay. But that's what I'll have you do when I need to let him in the door.
And I realized that I left my entire packet at the office. Is it in the link you sent us? So I
Yeah,
can-
it's in the link and you can just pull it up and look at the electronic version. It's not, it's pretty easy questions.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All right. So let me now share the correct thing. Okay, can you guys all see this? The PowerPoint? Excellent. So this is the plan for today. And of course, plans are meant to be flexible. So we will do what we need to cover what we think is important. Learning objectives, you'll assess your communication strengths and opportunities for improvement. That'll really be with that short assessment. Explain and practice skills to deal with difficult conversations, including corrective feedback. We talked about corrective feedback previously, did we not? Yeah, okay. Describe the benefits of moving beyond communicating to connecting with others. You guys, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I know people who are communication professionals who aren't always great with connecting with others and themselves. And so to me, that's one of the most important things. It actually is a John Maxwell topic, and it's one of the best topics I think that John Maxwell has. So and I mean, you guys know I'm on the John Maxwell team. And so I'm going to share with you some strategies that I think will really help everybody. This has been consistently one of the most popular and impactful discussions is around that connecting. We'll talk briefly about leadership and communication, including generational differences too, just to kind of cover what the research says in terms of communication, and then develop an action plan for improvement. So communication is really, really important, right? When people communicate with you, they get an impression, they judge you, regardless of how you are communicating, whether it's via email, in person, phone, social media, they get an impression of you and they judge you. And out of that comes a decision on their part about your potential to help them, your potential to maybe do business with you, your potential to make them have respect for you. It's so many things are dependent on communication. So I don't know, other than Nanette's a communication major, right? Right? Is anyone else a communication major? Okay. So Nanette, you remember the Shannon Weaver model? It's still being covered in the FSU College of Communication and every other college of communication in the world. The Shannon Weaver model was developed many decades ago. I want to say it was around 1959. And it says there's an information source, a transmitter, a receiver, and a destination. And you can see there's a little noise there. But what has happened through the years with communication? Think about it. Think about in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and moving forward, is that we have so much noise now, right? We have ridiculous amounts of noise. Now, what are some examples of noise that cloud communication? I want you to look at this model and think about the fact that there is decoding and encoding, and there are messages with feedback. And along the way, at every step, there's noise. What are some examples of noise that cloud the message, that make people receive your message incorrectly, that make you receive messages incorrectly? What are some examples of noise?
Yeah, so like our experiences, previous experiences or biases are tremendous, noise makers for sure.
Absolutely, definitely.
I was
What
going to
else?
say, like text, if something is in like all caps or an
Oh, yeah.
exclamation point or too many of them.
Yes.
For sure. Yes. What else?
And maybe the vehicle, the communications vehicle we're using, much to to your point of, caps and texts, which platform are we using? I'll never forget, my professor said once, like, if your boss wanted to communicate something that was really important about your job or whatever, like emailing or over the phone isn't appropriate, in person is more appropriate. So the communication vehicle you're using could be as well.
Definitely. I think you've heard me tell you the story before of working with a manufacturing firm, and they had many longtime employees, and they knew that they were going to lose a major contract. Instead of sharing that with people, that this might be a real possibility, they waited until the day before the holidays and they sent a mass email to everyone, basically giving them pink slips. Email, and that was the wrong medium completely. What are some other examples of noise?
I feel like gossip sprinkled into the
Whoa.
conversation, like office politics, they tend to take away from the actual message that you're trying to get across.
Definitely. Anything else? What about stress? When you're stressed yourself, how receptive? Obviously, the technician is here. The technician is here. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to go to the communication self-assessment and just do that. All right, I'm going to mute so you don't hear my dog barking. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. How's everybody doing?
All right, I'm getting through it.
Okay, good. Keep on working. I'll give everybody a few more minutes.
Hey, sweet lady. That was fun.
Kevin says hi.
Oh, yay, Kevin. The cutie.
Small world.
Isn't it crazy?
Mhm.
And you're talking about my Kevin Mock? Which Kevin are you referring to?
Kevin Goff
Oh,
and his wife Peggy.
yes. I love them. They're the sweetest people.
Yeah.
They're, I get to see him sometimes at Smith Family Chiropractic. And I get to see Pam, their FSA.
I was curious whenever you said you had interactions with the Sheriff's Association. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is everyone done with the assessment?
Yeah, I think as people are finishing, they're coming on to video.
Okay,
so-
perfect. Oh, good. Thank you. That's beautiful. I really like that. Whoever thought of that? Good idea.
Yeah, okay, we're all
All
back.
right, awesome.
This
Thank
is a
you.
good
That's
one.
a really, really good idea. Okay, so let's go through them. Let's start with the first question, and who would like to read it? And then we'll
I'll jump in. Yeah, I listen carefully and rephrase information for better understanding. I'd say sometimes at work, yes, more often because I see my smart bosses using that as a technique. But in my personal life, I don't do that near as much. So that's why I rated myself sometimes, because it seems like, yes, we're professional. We're supposed to do this at work. You know, it's a technique. But I forget to use that in my personal life, I think.
Good point. And we really probably need to do it in both, don't we? In
Yeah,
fact,
we-
often the people we're communicating with in our personal life, maybe we sometimes neglect a little bit with giving them the right attention with communication. So very
Yes.
good. How did everyone else do on that one? How did you rate yourself?
So this is the first one, listening carefully and rephrasing.
I said usually, but I was thinking in a work context.
Okay. How do you do it at home?
Well, if it's over text message, there's usually a lot of deleting, and then rewriting, deleting, rewriting. You got to get the emotions out first and then go back. But yeah, I mean, usually the people I talk to are people in my family, so I assume they would tell me if they don't understand something.
Joy and Heather, how did you do?
I put always for that one, and I can say personally and work wise, I do that. I kind of got in the habit with my parents because one would say one thing and then the other would say one thing. So I would always have to end up following up like, okay, let me get this straight. You want me to do this, and then I heard this from the other person. So it was one of those things where it just got ingrained in my head to just rephrase it so I can make sure that I can go back and say, well, they told me this.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Joy?
I put usually to always, it just kind of depends on the situation, but with our 3 children, we have one of them who is extremely literal, like her father. And I don't say that in a negative connotation at all, but when she was little, someone would say, if she was standing in front of the TV, you make a better door than a window. And she'd say, don't you mean a better window than a door? She could not get it. I think she was 20 before she really, and I'm saying that probably as an exaggeration, but there's so many things that Jessica and Dakota, if I say something, they got it, where Caitlin and Larry will say, but you didn't say precisely. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else struggles with that, but I learned very quickly, if you don't say, my husband's favorite phrase is say what you mean what you say. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty accurate when you have to rephrase just to make sure that you know.
Yeah, it is important though, because often there's miscommunication when people don't rephrase or don't
Yeah.
say what I hear you saying is right. So, all right, who wants to take the next one?
I will. In order to better understand the message, I put myself in the person's speaking's place. I feel like that's a usually, simply because as a child I felt misunderstood always. And so I made a decisive action, as I got older to make sure that I wasn't misreading or, so I would probably say always. There's a lot of things that I don't do well, but I would say that it's probably closer to always that I'm, it's just like ingrained, I guess.
Good. And often the way we were raised affects our communication as well. And I always say that regardless of what it is, we either live it up or live it down, or we either repeat what we experienced or we do everything possible to not have that. So, and so you made a conscious decision to not subject your children to what you went through, right?
Yeah.
So, how about everybody else? How did you do on that one?
I did usually, yeah.
Okay.
Because that is a technique I like to use, because we have to do it when we're looking at like how to reach a customer's target audiences, where do they live, work, play. So, that's something that a technique we use is putting ourselves in our target audience's shoes to help us better reach them.
And this is exactly what I was talking about. Here we have Nanette, who's a communication professional. And, and so she can contribute in ways that are really helpful in giving examples of what she does in her communications firm, but at the same time, I know Nanette is not perfect, including with her communication, right? Including with her communication personally. It's just, none of us is perfect, nor will we ever be. And there's always opportunities to get better, always. So, all right, everyone else did pretty good though. Let's move on to the next one. Who wants to take it? Go ahead, Jackie.
I ask questions if the message is not clear. And for me, that's an always.
Good.
Because I don't want to leave confused.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid to ask questions. That's really good that you ask questions.
Yeah.
Did everyone do well on that one? Good. Let's move on to the next one then. Who will take the question?
I think I'm up. I concentrate on what is being said and avoid internal and external distractions. And I put usually, it kind of depends on the conversation.
Right. I mean, I don't know about you, but operating in the virtual world that we're living in now, and even these Zoom meetings and have back to back, sometimes 4 in a day, 5 in a day, I do get distracted. It's easy to get distracted, especially when you're not actively engaged. I don't know about you, but attending professional development things where I'm passively participating, I tend to get distracted. I tend to think, I could be knocking out some of the 580 emails I got today. I could be working on this deadline that I have for tomorrow. Or even personally, like all the things that everyone is going through. You get a text message from a family member and you want to make sure that everyone's okay, right? So I think it's easy to get distracted these days in the virtual world we're living in, but if it's something important, then you have to do everything possible to keep your focus. How did everyone else do on that?
I said sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and most of the time it's, especially at work, people just kind of like pop in at your office, and you're like in the middle of creating a work order or something like that. So it's like, am I going to drop everything I'm doing to say, hey, how was your day? No, it's kind of like, oh, it's good, and then, so yes, sometimes.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't miss about working in an office. There are some things I miss, like, just getting to see people, but I used to get frustrated because I felt like a lot of productivity was sucked out of my day from people just popping in and, chit chatting about whatever. So,
This was a topic at Dr. Rayburn's funeral for us
Aw.
more, because he would come in and talk to us, and we had heavy hearts when we realized each of us, the last time he'd come in, we were like multitasking and working at our computer while he was standing there talking to us. And, we all shed some tears over that lesson, which we
Yeah.
learned very hard, but I mean, understandable. He's, retired, and, he has time, and we're trying to, smush 12 hours into a shorter day. And so, so it's understandable. And I have no doubt he didn't judge us for it, because he always felt like work came first. But, the lesson for us was we didn't get all the goodness out of those moments, and would not have known those were our final moments with him, so.
Yeah, that's pretty profound, Nanette. And Dr. Rayburn was on my master's committee, and I took several classes with him in the College of Communication. And then 2 weeks later, my major professor in my doctoral program died also. And I do think there's a message there that none of us knows how long each other is going to be here. None of us knows if it's the last conversation. So you kind of have to have this balancing act, right? I mean, you just don't know. And so you don't want to have regret for the last conversation you had with somebody was you were like, look, I don't really have time to talk to you right now, so it is just a juggle, a life juggle. And so while I am very productivity focused, I think that I'm better now than ever about saying this can wait. Like, this is really important for me to finish this deadline, but it's more important for me to deal with somebody who's going through trauma right now, or, who's going through something that is really challenging. So I have been known to drop important things because I'm concerned for the person. So everyone else, how'd you do? Everyone else do all right on that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question then.
Yep, and I'm up on this one, since we're 4 of us.
Yes.
So I control my emotions when receiving difficult information from others. And I say usually, because I'm trying to be fair to the person. At the end of the day, whoever's giving us this information is going out on a limb. And, so if we overreact or make them uncomfortable, you're not going to get all of the message, and you're not going to receive it properly and in the intent. So yeah, I do try to, be like, calm that inner voice and listen. And then I start asking questions so I can better understand. So I put usually.
Good. Everyone else? About the
But
same?
sometimes,
Okay.
I mean, for me, that one's kind of hard, especially depending on the information. I'm trying to work on that one, but when it's something that kind of knocks me off that I wasn't expecting, that's really hard for me to kind of keep it controlled.
Mm-hmm.
I said sometimes as well, because when you get the really shocking stuff, you're like, what? And so it's hard to contain that.
You're right. Joy?
I'm gonna go right along with what Jackie said, because I'm very animated. And that's just my personality. So I have to really work on that a lot, of just remaining in control, and so yeah, I put sometimes.
And this really kind of ties in nicely with our last discussion on emotional intelligence. So good. All right, next one.
I make eye contact when communicating with others. That one I marked always, but I think it would probably lean a little bit towards always usually.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because, as a mom, Gigi, there are times where somebody's talking to you, but you are multitasking, cooking dinner or, whatever. So I would say most of the time. But when it's something serious, I make that an absolute priority. My husband and I have been married for almost 26 years in September and have a phenomenal relationship. But the two things, if you were to ask him what any of my complaints would be tone of voice and lack of eye contact during a conversation. Because he can multitask like nobody's business. He could be counting money, directing an employee, and all this kind of stuff, and completely seem like he's hearing it all, and he can multitask very well that way. But there's a lot of times where I'll be saying something to him and I'm like, did you hear me? Yes. Did I need to respond to every single time you say something? And I'm like, no. I just think it's important to give people that attention when something's really important to them.
100% agree with you, Joy. And I think that so often people have such busy lives and they are trying to multitask. And the thing is, one thing that you said that I think is important is that when you know it's important, you drop everything and you give that person your full attention and eye contact. So many people don't do that. They just keep doing like multitasking, which is essentially giving that person a message that all these other things that I'm working on at the same time are actually more important than you. So I'm just going to give you half of my attention or less. Yeah, I'm listening, kind of, So how did everyone else do with that one?
I said always, but in the thought process of an important conversation.
I'm the same, Jackie. I said always as well in that.
Heather?
I put usually on that one. Excuse me.
Excellent. You're all doing well then.
Yeah, that one's a bit weird for me. I notice when like there was not too long ago a time where I had to give some not so great news, like AKA you're not doing your job very well and it's starting to show. But what I realized is I put usually because if I don't feel like I have solid ground on what I'm telling them, I tend to, it's harder for me to keep eye contact. It's almost kind of like that dog kind of giving away like the, looking to the side, like I'm, being subjective. So that one was a little weird when I thought about that.
All right. Let's move on to the next question then. Who has that one?
I do. I use appropriate body language and nonverbal cues when listening. I said usually on that one.
Yeah, me too. Could always do better, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Next.
I think I'm back up. When someone talks to me, I stop what I'm doing and listen to the person. I said usually, again, kind of depending on the severity of the conversation.
Everyone else have usually or above?
Same.
Good. Next.
When someone is talking to me, I do not look at my phone or computer.
Oh,
That's a really a good appropriate one for me because I was in the rarely to sometimes category. In fact, there has been a meeting where Terry, my boss, actually like flipped my phone over next to me. Oh, and I was like, inside, I was like, what the fuck did she just do? I'm servicing clients for this firm and she just touched my freaking phone.
Good for her though, right?
Yeah,
That's
but
a powerful message.
It was a powerful message. So I've gotten better, but that is definitely like my worst on this entire list.
Yes, that
I'd
was
probably
very
pay to
appropriate for you
hear
to get that
Nanette cuss again.
What was that, Jackie?
I said I'd pay to hear Nanette cuss again.
Ooh, buddy.
That's funny. How did everyone else do on that one?
Same.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we are just, our phones have become our third arm. Like, it's horrible, but we are addicted. They beep, we just do everything. Text
They only
everything.
beep if we let them beep. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
my strategy is, and I've shared this with you before, I turn off all sounds. There's no sound. So that Pavlovian effect of the ding, it doesn't take my attention away. I'm not doing that. I do wear a watch that communicates to the phone and I'll get a vibration, but I've conditioned myself that I won't look unless I'm in the middle of nothing important.
Okay.
I won't look.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm on a bike ride, I might take a quick little peek just to make sure it's not a family member, who's going through something. But overall, I just don't look. I don't. I think, you know what, it can wait. I'm in the middle of a task. I'm in the middle of trying to get something done. And I'm just not going to bother. And half the time now I love the phone labels things like telemarketer, I love that because
Yeah.
then I know I don't even have to bother. But I strongly encourage you to think about changing your ringer, so that I don't ever get a ring. I know there's no sound at all on my phone. The only sound I ever have on is an alarm, which I always wake up before my alarm, but I do have it set just in case, because I have this fear of oversleeping that has never happened in my life. But I'm always going to have that alarm set just in case. How does everyone else feel about that?
I
I'm
actually
telling you,
put
like, it'll give your life a lot more calm if you do that.
I like using the do not disturb option on my phone for like meetings, because I used to do it where I would try to put it on silence and then I would forget it was on. And then come like 7 o'clock, I realized I haven't heard from anybody today. And then lo and behold, 20 gazillion notifications later, which are usually just news articles or something. But I find that for meetings is really nice because I can put it on for an hour. And then if the meeting is going over an hour, then it's kind of, at that point.
Are you saying you like snooze all notifications for an hour on your phone?
Yeah. So mine, it has the option of you can set a time on it. So you can go 1 hour, 2 hours, and then it'll automatically turn it off. So like you don't have to.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did not know.
Every phone lets you do that.
Is that in like settings? Yeah. Can you
Yes.
explain? I'm sorry for this technical support.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, where is it?
So if mine is like when you slide down, there's like a do not disturb there. It's usually
And
like
you
a little
can-
minus bar, and it's
Yeah.
like do not disturb for an hour or until you shut it off. And then you can always turn it off early if you don't want to. I don't
But
know if
see
you
what
have an
I do,
iPhone.
because there might be something really emergency. And so I don't want to I do have do not disturb automatically set every night. I have it automatically set between like 10:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. However, if it's a favorite, like if I have someone favorited, like my dad or mom calls, I'm going to let it go through. It's got it set so that favorites can get through. And then other people, I have it set so that if they do 2 calls in a row, it'll come through so that friends, who know that technology know that if they call twice in a row, if it's something, an emergency, they're going to get through. Otherwise, I like the not having do not disturb, I like having do not disturb off, like during a meeting, because let's just say that that my family's going through something. And I'm going to wait for a pause in the meeting or, maybe the end of the meeting. And then I can just kind of flip my phone up and I'll see the notifications and then see if I've missed anything. Now, that being said, I turn off a lot of notifications. Like for social media, I don't really care if someone's posting. I don't. So I turn those 100% off because I don't think that I need to ever get a notification about social media. And so for me, I will just actively go to social media when I plan time for that. And that way it doesn't overtake my time. So that it is not something that's a huge part of my life. I think so many people let the hours in their day tick away with spending time on social media. So again, I think managing your alerts so that you're not getting too many of them, and then managing, like having a gatekeeper with your phone so that only certain people are getting through to you when you want them to, is helpful. But, I'm glad you found something that works for you, Heather. I think that's really good. How about you, Jackie and Joy?
Well, I didn't realize there was that. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jackie. and then Joy.
I didn't realize there was that scheduled option in there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But no, I'm pretty terrible at it. No, I don't have text messages that I have that on complete silence because we are of a lot of family group messages that I really just don't need to read. But usually I will step aside and take a 850 phone call because that's usually like kids or doctor's appointments. And so I do tend to be like, excuse me.
Right. Good. What about you, Joy?
Just disappointed I didn't know about this do not disturb.
You should be
Because-
happy that you've learned about it because, and that's the thing, you know, these classes are, sometimes we learn from each other and it's a really powerful thing.
Well,
So,
I did use it in the evening, or I do have it on from 11 p.m. to
mhm,
7 a.m., but I didn't know that you could schedule it for meetings.
yes.
So I'm gonna have to go through my iPhone today and figure out how to do that.
It's also really helpful if you're doing a live event, right, Joy? So you do a lot of live events and you really don't want that interruption.
Exactly.
So, okay. Next question.
When choosing a seat to have a conversation, I try to pick a place to minimize distractions. And I would say most generally, yes, but I did mark usually because there's always exceptions, but you know, if Larry and I are going out or something, I don't want, you know, screaming kids and everything else to interact or to distract. I'm highly distractible by nature. So I just tend to do that as a rule because I don't want to be squirrel, you know, all the time. So
I'm with you on that, Joy. I am easily distracted. And so I do try to be cognizant of, like, even in the footpath, not that I've been in a restaurant in forever, but like, I don't want to sit near the restroom, or I don't want to sit anywhere where people are going to be coming and going because my brain is just going to be, oh,
right,
so
right, constantly.
yes. How did everyone else do?
I'll be honest, I said rarely on this one
Mm.
because I don't normally think of that stuff. I just
Mm.
kind of sit close proximity. Except maybe at restaurants, I might try to get like the more quiet, like outside if it's really loud inside, but that's about
Mhm.
it.
Give me just a moment. I think I need to have a conversation real quick. Okay, I'll be right back. Keep talking amongst yourselves. Go to the next question.
Okay. And Heather, I want to say the next question is probably yours, the explaining something to me conclusion one, right?
I think so.
No.
Sorry.
No, this one's me.
Oh, this
Oh,
one.
I
okay.
was on mute. I'm
And
sorry, I
Jack
was on
Powell.
mute. Sorry. When someone else is talking, I don't interrupt them or finish their sentence. That's sometimes too rarely because I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, it's like picking up your phone to me. It's hard because like, and I have this conversation with a lot of people. I'm like, but what you just said is not correct. And I don't want you to keep going on, you know, pushing that thought because your premise is wrong or you misunderstood me or whatever. And so we feel very validated in interrupting them and being like, no, that's not it. But it really
Or just question. See here, I'm doing it right now. Wow. Okay.
No, it's okay. I was
I'm just
rapping.
gonna put never. You know, I'm changing it to never. I can't even get through just having a conversation. Okay.
No,
That's
I was
changed.
rapping. See, you knew I was rapping. I had nothing more to say.
What about you ladies?
I put sometimes. It's hard.
I do. It's a bad habit I formed. My stepmom would do that. She like start a conversation and just keep going. So if I didn't just end up kind of inserting myself into the conversation, and like trying to finish her sentences. It was like my way of getting the lecture to like cease. So I just kept doing that, and I've been trying not to do that when I like have conversations with people.
Yeah. Joy, what about you, sweet lady?
I would say probably sometimes.
Yeah.
I know in the heat of the moment, it's very easy to go, no, 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 no. You got it wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I try to be patient, but patient is not one of my better fortes sometimes. So it's usually a conscious effort not to.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
That's
Because
one
when
I
they're wrong,
personally
they're
struggle
wrong,
with.
right?
Yes.
That's one I personally struggle with a lot. Cause you're like, I don't know about you, but if I don't get something out right away, I'm probably going to forget it. And I know when I'm doing it, I know this is not like polite. And this isn't the right way. I just sometimes jump in before I need to. And I would say this is the thing I need to work on the most.
Yeah.
I'm bad about hold that thought, hold that thought. But if somebody does it to me, I can't hold that thought. I don't know the next thought. What the hell? So yeah, I'm really bad about hold that thought because I know that I'm gonna lose it within the next 2.3 seconds. So when it's gone, you know?
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry I had to jump off. Did everyone talk about this enough?
We did.
Next one.
Okay, when someone is explaining something to me, I do not come to a conclusion before the person finishes the explanation. I will honestly say that one is usually rarely. That I might not verbalize it, but mentally I'm just like trying to sound like Sherlock Holmes there.
I
I bet everyone else.
guilty.
And when you get it right, you're like, I knew it.
That's funny. All right, next one.
Okay, this one's me. When someone is talking to me, I try to read the person's body language for clues to what the person is feeling. And, you know, like we've talked about, I have sometimes because you're so busy thinking about your response or trying to understand or hear them that to add the layer of looking at their body language is kind of hard. And these days we're not like around each other in person so much anyway. So yeah, this one's a tricky one.
But when you do see body language that contradicts the
What they're-
verbal
Yeah,
language, which one is normally right?
I would have to say the body language.
It is. Research shows the body language is right, like 99% of the time over the words.
Yeah.
And so it is a very good skill to have to read people's body language.
Yeah, we should do a little deep dive into body language. That would be very valuable.
Well, we can do that today, actually, because we're talking about communication. So, yeah.
Well, I have to interrupt.
You're not interrupting. We finished our sentence.
I was looking at the body language things because I feel like expressions I'm very good at deciphering, but I don't feel like, and maybe I'm gonna just do it, but I don't feel like I'm good at deciphering body language. So I was looking at it and one of them said, touching face, nose, or throat, looking up and to the left. I don't avoid eye contact, but there's a lot of times when I'm telling a story, I'm thinking about it. And so I'm automatically, you know, and so that makes me think how many people think that I'm lying to them because I'm looking up and to the left. Now I'm going to be like, look to the right. Look to
No.
the right.
So we actually are going to get into this more. I think body language is an extremely important part of communication. And the key is, I'll go ahead and cover this part of it. That's called neuro-linguistic programming. The thing is that it is somewhat controversial. It's used in law enforcement. It's somewhat controversial because some people, including people who are left-handed, sometimes look up in a different direction. So here's the key. If you have asked somebody, let's just say 3 questions, and every time they looked up to the right and all they were doing was recalling information, and then they gave you whatever. And then you asked them a really tough question and they looked up in a different direction. They looked up to the left. Then they might be constructing the information. So it's a change in the body language. So because not everybody looks up in the same direction. I'm left-handed, for example. People who are left-handed have been known to look up in the other direction. So I think the key is just watching changes in body language patterns. I'm really good at detecting deception in people, for example, because I'm very in tune with what their body language is saying. And so one of the things that I've always been really good at that I teach is when you're interviewing people for a job, or I've taught law enforcement interviewing skills. So what are you looking for in the answers that people are giving you? You're looking at their body language too. You're looking at the way that their eye movements are going. You're looking at if their feet are pointed toward the door, they want to be anywhere but in the room with you. You know, you're looking at so many things that tell you about what they're really, really thinking rather than what their words are saying. And so I've been very good at hiring the right people, because some of the people who've interviewed extremely well, where I'm on a panel with other people and other people like they like this other guy. And I'm like, I'm sensing some things there that are not right. And ultimately I end up being right because I was paying attention, really paying attention to their body language. So, but we will get into that more, Joy, for sure. Jackie, did you have something?
I did. When you said interviewing, did you mean you taught law enforcement interrogation or interviewing?
Interviewing.
Okay.
Interviewing.
Right. I just wanted to
Very
clarify.
different than interrogation.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Mainly investigators. So often investigators have some challenges with investigative techniques. And so that's what I taught.
Jackie, I won't tell them about all of your past history, I promise.
I appreciate it.
Oh my.
All right. Next one.
Went last.
It's the when my phone rings, and
Yeah, but
somebody
did you do the previous one, Nan?
I did, yep. So
Okay,
we're on
so
the
this
phone
one.
rings one, sweetie.
Okay. If my phone rings when someone is talking to me, I do not check it to see if I should answer it. This is one thing I would have to say I'm bad at. And I'm trying to put it into words. If I'm in an interview or, a conference or something like that, obviously everything is silenced. I don't give it, but if I'm out to lunch with somebody and my phone rings, that's something that I will just glance and just put it back down or whatever, because I have this insane fear that something's gonna happen to one of my family members and I'm not gonna know it.
How would it not happen during a conference? How is it okay to give that respect to a conference?
I don't like it when you ask questions that make me think like that.
Oh my.
You do have
Now
a
she's gonna
very
take her
valid
phone in with
point,
her.
though.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I've never even thought of that. Oops.
So when I go to lunch with somebody, and I haven't been out to lunch very much, and it's now outdoor dining only, spaced, mask, distance. I make it a point I take my phone and I put it face down so I don't see it. And I just don't. Now, here's the exception. If I have a family member, for example, or a friend going through something major and I'm waiting on a call, or let's just say that I'm waiting on test results from the Mayo Clinic and I'm waiting on a call, I'm going to say to the person, look, I don't normally do this. I am waiting on an important call. If it comes, I'm going to need to answer it. And, I've never had anyone say anything other than I totally understand. And then I will turn it the other way. But, I just think that it's really important to give someone your full attention. And you could still have the same technique of using technology in your favor, such as using do not disturb and only allowing favorites or people who call you 2 times in a row to get through, so that you're not getting distracted unnecessarily. I had a date, and I don't have a lot of dates anymore, but I had a date several years ago with a guy who seemingly was really interesting until the minute he got a phone call and he looked, and I just I was done after I checked out after that. Had no interest in the guy because I thought he is way more interested in whoever is calling him on the phone than who's in front of him. And I just don't want to have anything. It's needless to say, there was not a second date, Yeah, I just think it's a respect thing to not look, with exceptions, of course. And I even say this when I teach people in HR departments how to correctly interview job candidates. I teach them to allow the person, if they say, look, my mother's in the hospital right now and I'm waiting on a call from a doctor, I wouldn't normally bring my phone into a job interview, but would it be okay if I get that call? I encourage them to be open to that. So I think you just need to communicate if there's an exceptional reason that you need to do it, but don't get in the habit. Just don't. If you can turn it off for events, you can turn it off for lunch, right?
Yes, absolutely. Except I'm going to have to block my sister then, because what she's having for dinner requires 3 calls in a row within 30 seconds. And it pisses me off. And I'll just go, this better be an emergency.
That's funny. All right. Anyone else have thoughts on that? Okay, let's move on then.
When someone says something critical about me or gives me bad news, I don't become defensive or punish the messenger. I honestly can't think of a time where I've really reacted terribly to somebody who was just delivering a message. So I said usually.
Good.
Unless someone else has some examples that will maybe change my mind.
There you go. Anyone else have examples?
My thing was depending on how they deliver the message, if they're respectful and they're just delivering a message and, they go, look, I know this is awkward. That's one thing. But if I got somebody who's just I've had this before, they just get nasty with it because they feel like they're in the seat of power kind of thing. They kind of crop an attitude, or, unfortunately it's the age thing where I'm so many years older than you, I don't need to listen to you. That's when I'll get defensive and punishable, mentally, and try to keep myself in check from okay. But yeah, I think it kind of depends on how they deliver it, because if they're respectful, I can reciprocate easily and also be respectful. I get it. It's not fun. We'll move along.
Good.
But I feel in those situations too, that's more instead of it just being a message, it becomes you personal thing. Because I have had one of those situations where it was very it was way more personal than it should have been from the person delivering it. And I was okay, well, that you could have just told me this and we would have been fine. You'd have to add in all the extra snarky comments and
Yeah, they make it more than just the message at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
At that point, it feels like an attack, not just, and there's a difference, I feel, there's a difference between a verbal attack, somebody being combative, and, they obviously need to be put in their place.
Joy, I need to bring you with me more often.
No, you really don't. You might get in trouble, just saying.
All right. Last question.
I think that one's me. When people talk to me, I can tell when they think I don't understand, so I paraphrase back to them what they have said. I'd say that's kind of for me always to usual. It's kind of like the first one where I like to rephrase things. Especially if they're kind of giving me that blank face look, like kind of awkward, and then I'll try to rephrase it and do that. So, hi, doggy.
This is Finn.
Yeah,
Finn has his
Gabrielle, I was
animal
gonna
therapy
say,
evaluation
this is
today.
like looking at your phone because Finn is so stinking cute. He's a
He is
secret.
adorable. He disappears with the background though.
I love his big head.
I know. Well, it's perspective, right? Because he's in front of me right now. He's really not that big of a head. It is funny though how the animals disappear. Oh, Finny Finn, my little boy.
Oh, he's got a big head.
He really doesn't. Anyway, he's yawning. That's how he feels about this. Okay, so how does everyone else feel about that last question?
I said usually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Good.
back to my earlier point, they're being kind enough to give us some feedback and make us a priority. So we, owe them a fair listen.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, very good. I think overall you did great, right? Always room for improvement though, always.
Yeah.
So let's move on then. Communication is the #1 skill that employers seek. Practitioners in big 6 accounting firms spend 80% of their time communicating with others, and probably each of you in your own respective fields, it's the same way. Average executive spends 45 minutes per hour communicating, and subscribers to the Harvard Business Review rated communication as the most important fact in making people promotable. But here are some challenges with communication. We speak at a rate of about 125 words per minute. We listen between 150 and 400 words per minute. And we think at about 1,000 to 3,000 words per minute. So what's happening with all that extra time in our brains? Right? This is why we get distracted, because we can process what people are saying and even complete their thoughts correctly or incorrectly, and our mind starts to wander to other places. Other challenges include the fact that words are processed in short-term memory. So when we talk to somebody, it might only make it to short-term memory. And it's 7 bits of information at a time typically there, but images are processed in long-term memory. So if you really want something to stick, what do you need to do?
Add a picture.
Yes, add a picture, add a graphic. That really helps transfer that information into long-term memory. Now, words are powerful, right? When I was growing up, my mother would say, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." That's bull, right? Words hurt. Think about the times in your life when people said things that were hurtful to you and cruel to you. They're still in your head, aren't they? They don't leave. In fact, the negative things that people say to you are much more long-standing than the positive things. And so words are very, very important. And I love this Maya Angelou quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And with words, we can really change the way that people feel. So can you think of examples of things that people have said that have stuck with you?
Positive or negative?
Yes, both.
Oh,
Well, after Dr. Rayburn died, I went back and looked, it's kind of my habit. If I lose someone close to me, I look back at our messages,
I do
texts.
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of memorialize them and, kind of have a moment with them. And So some of the things Dr. Rayburn said, I was like, oh, I'm so glad he took a moment to say those because I'll have them forever. Yeah.
Mhm. That's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I'll give a negative. I'm going to boil a long story down to a short one. My daughter, oh gosh, they were 19, I guess. And one of her really dear friends, Gabby, my daughter, was making a basket for her. And she asked me if I would buy some cinnamon, the Fireball cinnamon liqueur to put in it. And they, this girl's parents, they go to each other's houses and, so the parents say, okay, if the girls drink, they're staying. But my family member, I have a family member, sister-in-law who, thought I was a horrible parent because of that, because I was willing to buy that, even though I'd already, I knew that the girl's mom was okay with it. We chose to be realistic and communicate as parents. Okay, my kid can stay there and she can have a drink, but she needs to stay there. And so, she like always judged me, after that. And eventually it came down to where she told me that she would never leave her my 4-year-old niece, her daughter, with me alone, because she felt like I was a terrible parent. And I was like, holy shnikes. So, but that stuck with me forever. I'm like, it's just stuck with me.
Mm.
Those are the type of parents that lose their children early because they can't trust their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been interesting to watch her grow up. She's now 7. And, they told me that she came into the family room and was like, no, this is my TV. If you're watching TV, you're going to watch one of my shows. And they allowed her to do that. And I'm like, then you would lecture me on parenting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Anyone else think of examples of words that have stuck with you, good or bad? What you eating there, Nanette, while we're thinking?
So I went to Costco yesterday and they have keto crackers. Only I got them because let's see if you can see them, because they're gluten-free. And they're made with pumpkin seeds, almonds, hemp seeds. They're quite good.
They sound good.
Yeah. And they're
Interesting.
delicious. Yeah. So I recommend these.
All right. Any other words?
I'll share that to get a little on the darker side. But one thing that has stuck with me through many years, if you can tell, I have a complex relationship with my stepmom. Long story short, I have a real full brother, like a half sister, and then a step brother. So I've got the whole gambit. So the 2 youngers are her children. She explained to me when I was like middle school, so like still kind of emotionally vulnerable. She, I think, was trying to be realistic and nice about it, but it still stuck with me. She explained to me that there's always going to be a difference between her kids and us because we're not her biological children. So that's always been kind of a fun, always in the back of my head, and explained a lot of her actions and stuff. But just those words, like I said, I don't think she meant them maliciously, but that just solidified that I'm different than her children. So talk about words.
Yeah, what a cruel thing
Yeah.
to say to a young child. Really.
We should start a club.
Yeah, we should start a club. I can join that club too.
Yeah.
My dad's girlfriend. Oh my gosh. I could make a list of things that just hurt my heart.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So.
And I feel like, I'll just add really quickly that I don't know that as those many adults treat boys the same way. And not like I'm a raving feminist, but I just have seen inequity, sex inequity.
Yeah, you're right. There really is.
Well, if I could just throw in one, I was in a really toxic relationship one time, and I'm sure more than once, but this one comes to light. And he was just really mean and not a good person. So when I was finally like done with the relationship and we broke up, I wrote down all the terrible things he ever said to me, so that if he ever like wanted to come back or tried to hit me up or whatever, I would just like, I would start reading him all the terrible things that he said to me. And it worked. So
Yeah, you had the opportunity to read those things to him?
yeah, I showed him
Wow.
the book, you know, because he was like, I want to be back with you. And I was
Ah.
like, no way.
Good
No
for
way.
you.
Here's the why.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Wow.
That's
So they
awesome.
work both ways.
Well, that's pretty powerful what you did. I mean, powerful really for you, you know, so that you wouldn't even dream of repeating, you know, going back. And I do think sometimes people think it's easy to go back, but having the insight of knowing how toxic it was and that you didn't need that toxicity and therefore you were going to write these messages down that he had given you. I think that's awesome.
Took a lot of wine. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I want to share a video with you that I love. I haven't shared this with you before, right? Okay, cool. So this is really about the power of words. Can everyone see what's on the screen right now?
A sweet
The man
homeless
sitting-
man.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and play this for you. Isn't that awesome? So what did the sign say before?
I'm blind, please help, I think.
Yes. And how does that resonate with you when someone says, I'm blind, please help? A little bit, you know, like, but I don't really like connect. But boy, a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day and I can't see it. That tugs at your heartstrings. And so sometimes it's the way we say things that make a difference. Even the way that we communicate with ourselves, that makes a difference. So I want you to think about the things that you say. And I know we've gone over some of these before, but I really want you to think about the words that you use. And here are some examples that I love. Can you guys see this right now, the PowerPoint? Okay. So how many of you love to be transferred by phone when someone says, let me transfer you? I hate it. I hear the word transfer and I cringe. But how about let me connect you?
Mhm.
Much nicer way to say something. In the service industry anymore, you hear people say, it's my pleasure instead of you're welcome. Please, thank you, you're welcome. I've said it before, but instead of saying I have to, you say I get to. What are some other words that you could change that are powerful?
I will share when I was at Smitty's, a new place, a new restaurant that opened where Flying Bear Grill used to be on Thomasville Road. I heard a waitress next to us, to many of her tables, say, what else can I do to make your experience perfect?
Hmm.
And I was like, well, that's a new one for me. I
Yeah.
just loved it. So
That's not bad. I perfect. I don't know about perfect, but yeah, but I like the concept. What about I'll try? What does that really mean?
Oh, you're always honest about that one. I heard that from you.
I'll try to exercise.
Oh, try means I'm not fully committed.
Exactly. What if you say, I don't have time?
You're fully not committed.
It means it's not a priority. So if you say, I don't have time to exercise, you're saying exercise is not a priority. I am not a priority. What happens when someone walks in the room and you say, I don't have time to talk to you? What are you saying? You are not a priority. Think about that. That's powerful. And often we say that to people who matter. We say that to people who matter to us. We say that in our personal lives. I don't have time to talk to you right now. And you don't know, as we just discussed, you don't know if that's the last conversation you're going to have with somebody either. So really watch your words, even the words you say to yourself. We are the worst when it comes to communicating negatively to ourselves. How many times you say, great job. You are on it today. No, we are always saying things that are bad to us. You stupid, how could you? What are you thinking? And so really think about your messages that you're sending to others and the messages that you're communicating to yourself. Can you think of any others? Does this start to trigger any other examples? How about no problem? Whenever I'm teaching these seminars to people, the no problem thing really tends to irk certain people. And yet in a lot of places, I still hear people saying no problem. Of course it's no problem. It's your job, you know? So. All right, I'll just move on then. Nanette talked a little bit earlier about what method of communication you choose. It is really important to choose the most appropriate method of communication. Obviously, face-to-face is ideal because then you can not just have the body language, the tone of voice and many of the other factors, the energy. But we are in a world now that is probably going to stay virtual for a long time. And so personally, I've had to give sessions before to like 50 people who didn't have their cameras turned on. Do you know how hard that is? I'm not getting any kind of feedback at all. I mean, that is really challenging, I have to say. So I think however you can show people, if you're a participant, show people that you're paying attention, whether it's typing in the chat box and, you know, just asking questions. And I think we just need to be cognizant of our engagement with people in these new platforms or in different platforms. And so if you can turn your camera on, please turn your camera on, because, you know, I'm getting head nods. I'm seeing sometimes when people are confused, it helps a lot. But do choose the most appropriate method. Heather, the example you gave earlier of sending that email, I thought it was just great. And so it's those kind of things that give clarity to other people. It also, when I talked before in the very beginning about communication and potential, I think the technician is coming back. When I talked about communication and potential, let me just put my face mask back on. Come on in. Excuse me for just a moment. You guys want to take a quick break? Okay, take a quick break, 5 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody had a little quick break. Okay, Heather had to hop off for her 2 p.m. call. So what were we just talking about? It was in the middle of a sentence when he came in the door. Do you remember?
Well, that's really bad.
I know, right? Can anyone remember? Let's see, maybe Jackie will remember.
Hello.
Jackie, do you remember what I was talking about?
Don't feel bad. We didn't either.
He didn't either.
Short-term memory.
Nanette, do you remember what I was just talking about? I was in the middle of a sentence when he came back to the door.
Goodness.
It was right in the middle of thought.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I mean, whatever it was, I felt like, it was a pretty decent wrap. Like it wasn't, it wasn't burning things.
no, I was about to say something important, but oh well.
Oh, darn it. How well we're recording this.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do
Go back
play
and-
right now. So I guess we lost it. So
So sorry.
no, it's my fault. Anyway.
Well, pull up your PowerPoint. Let us see. Well, you had talked about, the method was most
Yeah,
important.
no, I'd gotten past that. Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, well. No, I lost it. It might come to me later, but anyway. Pooey. All right. Here's some great quotes on communication. The single biggest
Ooh.
problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Did you remember, Jackie?
Jackie, remember?
Yes, you were talking about the modes of communication, and then you mentioned about I do remember you talking about like doing a Zoom call of 50 people and all the screens are blank, and reading the body language and doing the feedback. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, no, that was great. But then there was something after that. But I appreciate that you remembered that part because I'd forgotten that part. No, man, anyway, oh well. Thank you for trying. So, wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. I do feel like some people feel like they have to just hear their voice, like they get happy about hearing their voice. And I've worked with organizations before where meetings were called constantly and there really wasn't a need for a meeting, for example. And then I like the most important thing in communication is hearing what's not being said. So let's talk about a little bit more about nonverbal communication and body language. So to show that you're engaged, leaning forward, having an open body language, not crossing your arms and that kind of thing. Open hands, showing your hands is another sign of being engaged. Aggressive, interestingly, could be leaning forward also. Hands on hips, finger pointing, fists clenched. Rejected could be moving back and forth, arms folded, legs crossed, thigh on the knee, head down, or a frown, listening, head tilted. I'm a head tilter. Lots of eye contact, nodding, or high blink rate. Defensive, arms crossed, feet pointing feet pointing in, hands clenched, eager, open legs, sprint position, feet under chair, on toes, leaning forward, attentive, standing, arms behind back, smiling, open feet. Let me speak, finger tapping, foot tapping, staring, leaning forward, deceptive, avoiding eye contact, looking up and to the left. We did talk about neuro-linguistic programming already. It could be up and to the right. You just want to really pay attention to what someone has been doing. And when it changes, that might be telling you something. Hands touching the face, throat. Yeah, and that's another thing when people are, what does it mean? Have you ever seen people do this during Zoom, like playing with their hair? Very distracting. Uninterested, staring into space, stumped posture. Interestingly, doodling's on here, but let me tell you something. It is often perceived as being uninterested, but research shows that it's actually people who are doodling are much more engaged, even when what they're doodling about has absolutely nothing to do with what the content is. and then foot tapping.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So when I see somebody doodling in a class that I have in person, I know they're paying attention. And one of the things that I teach at FDLE a lot and coming up is communication. And inevitably I have sworn law enforcement officers that I'm teaching, and I'll see like 2 or 3 of them out of the room are doodling. And I'll get to this part and I'll talk about it. And the people who are doodling are super proud of their doodles, and they're like, I've always been picked on for doing this, but this is just what I do. I am listening 100%. I'm listening. I'm like, I believe you. And so then they show off their doodles, and it's always something impressive. So now there are cultural differences with nonverbal cues though. And so these are something to be aware of if you deal with different cultures at all. So thumbs up, okay signs, victory signs, eye contact, all these things could mean different things in different cultures. So for example, we give an okay sign all the time in scuba diving, but an okay sign in Brazil is considered a rude gesture. And so a peace sign in South Africa is vulgar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And a horn sign like hook'em horns in many Mediterranean and Latin American countries like Argentina, Spain, Italy, and Portugal, to make the sign at someone is to tell them that maybe their spouse is cheating on them. So you do want to be attentive to knowing which culture you're communicating with and what that might be different. Now, I'll tell you, in Italy, for example, physical space is perceived very differently in other countries, right? So in Asia, it's very, very different than in America. America is pretty much 3 feet. This is before COVID, okay? It's way more than 3 feet now. But before COVID, it was 3 feet. And if you were within an arm's length of somebody, you would feel like someone was in your space. Now it's a much bigger bubble that we have around us. But I remember being like 14 years old on a bus, maybe 13 on a bus in Italy, and literally men were pinching me. I was a child. And this is normal there. It's just normal, so and it wasn't in any way considered anything rude. So I'm just saying different cultures are different. In Asia, there's no bubble of space, and people are just touching you when you're standing online. And so it's something to be aware of. And really it all ties into low versus high context societies. So in high context, rely heavily on nonverbal communication, like closeness of hierarchy, relationships, hierarchies, and deep cultural knowledge to convey meaning, and low rely mainly on words themselves. And in those low context cultures, communication is more direct, and hierarchies are more relaxed. So how many of you do communicate in a lot with other cultures? So you've probably seen this if you do. And if you don't, you should be aware. So normally at this point, I talk a little bit about communication supervisors asking direct reports. Have we done that already? And have we done performance management or anything? It's all a blur. And Heather's not here right now, so that I'll probably skip that part and move on to the next thing. We can come back to it if needed. So I want to share with you, I mentioned this is a Maxwell topic. It's from the book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, What the Most Effective People Do Differently. But before I get into that, I want to just share with you that connections can be incredibly powerful. And so I think you probably all have the personalities where you meet people, even if you're standing online somewhere, you're going to talk to people. And those connections can be really powerful. So research says you go to the beach, you set your stuff down on the beach, and you go jump in the water for a swim. Thieves come along and they steal your stuff. Nobody does anything about it. On the other hand, you go to the beach, you set your stuff down, you make a connection with somebody close to your blanket. You say, what a beautiful day. It doesn't have to be anything big. Good morning. You make a connection with somebody. You go in the water. Guess what happened when the thieves come along? people protect your stuff. Even if they don't know you, you've had that connection.
Oh, that's
So,
true. At the airport, we do that. If we have to go to the bathroom, we ask
Yeah.
the person next
And
to
so
us.
people will be like, that's not your stuff, you know? And so even in that concept, in that kind of scenario, it can be really powerful. So yeah, making connections rather than just communicating opens up a lot. It helps your ability to have better relationships, reduce conflict, increase accomplishments, help effectively convey ideas and attract followers, which is a big part of leadership. So this book, and if anyone wants a copy, I have plenty at my office if you want to borrow a copy and read it. Yeah, it's a great book, really powerful, but I'm going to kind of sum up the most important points. And then when you read it, Joy, you'll see like how the scenarios will help you a lot with the way that you connect with people. So if you want to succeed, you have to learn to connect with others. In organizations, high achievers care about people, view subordinates optimistically, seek advice from subordinates, and listen well to everyone. If you ever worked in a toxic organization, it's not that way at all. It's very hierarchical. Maturity is the ability to see and act on behalf of others. We remember a lot more of what we see than what we hear. Connecting always requires energy, and I'll get into this more a little bit later, but you need to have initiative, clarity, patience, selflessness, and stamina. If you're responsible for leading people or communicating with others, it's especially important for you to recharge. A bad beginning makes a bad ending. People connect with stories, not statistics. And so while statistics are helpful, it's the stories that really help connect whatever message you're trying to send. It's the job of a leader to bring clarity to a subject, not complexity. 3 words are essential to connect with others: brevity, levity, and repetition. Leadership is about inspiring people to do things they never thought they could. Steve Jobs. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the great teacher demonstrates. I'm thinking of Joy right now in her videos that she's been doing for her Color Street stuff. She's, you know, we're all teachers. We all are, regardless of what we're doing. If you're a parent, if you're in an organization, if you're mentoring somebody, if you're trying to get them to buy your product, you're a teacher, right? And so telling someone is different than explaining, is different than demonstrating. When you demonstrate, that's when you really connect with people. Vision without passion is a picture without possibilities. People ask 3 questions about their leaders. Do they care for me? Can they help me? And can I trust them? Those are really powerful questions. And finally, preparation yields confidence, and passion yields conviction. So let's go over some of these in more detail. The first connecting principle is influence. Connecting increases your influence in every situation. Successful US presidents exhibit 5 qualities: vision, pragmatism, consensus building, charisma, and trustworthiness. And 4 out of the 5 have to do with connecting. So 4 out of the 5 of being successful have to do with connecting. Most people who disconnect, unfortunately, are not aware. Here are some connecting signals: having extra effort, going the extra mile, unsolicited appreciation, saying positive things, unguarded openness, demonstrating trust, increased communication. People express themselves more readily. In fact, when I have worked in toxic organizations, people are afraid to speak. That's a good sign that you're disconnecting if people are afraid to speak. Enjoyable experiences, people feel good about what they're doing. Emotional bondedness, they display a connection on an emotional level. Positive energy, people really feel like their batteries are being charged by being together instead of drained. Growing synergy, people's effectiveness is greater than the sum of the contributions. And finally, unconditional love. People are accepting of other people, even any differences, without reservation. So there was a study done of 16,000 executives in various industries, and it found that there was a direct correlation between achievement, and the ability to care for and connect with people. So in the world, there are typically three kinds of people when it comes to achievers: high, average, and low. High care about people as well as profits. Average really focus on production. And low are preoccupied with their own job security. High view subordinates optimistically. Average focus on status. And low show a distrust of subordinates. High seek advice from those under them. Average are reluctant to do so, and low wouldn't even think of it. High achievers actively listen. Average listen only to superiors, and low really avoid communication and rely on policy manuals. So there's three methods of listening: combative, passive, and active. And here's the thing, most of the time we just passively listen. This is the thing that we do the most. We really don't take the time to ask questions and make sure we understand the other person's point of view. We're not doing feedback checks. Active listening is what we want to do. This is where we provide feedback and we're really engaged. And then combative is the worst of all. And if you have someone in your life who presses your buttons or knows how to press your buttons, even in the workplace, then you know what I'm talking about. The combative listening is where we are just kind of looking for the comeback, looking for flaws in what they're saying in order to come back. So you want to listen actively with your ears, eyes, and heart to concentrate on what the other person is saying and to really empathize. Pay attention to those facial expressions and nonverbal cues. Listen without interruption. And again, I'm guilty of this. But in order to recall and not just jump in, note key phrases, provide feedback checks, including asking questions. And pay attention to those verbal cues, but don't call them out. Okay. Also be aware of nonverbal messages you send. If you are a comfortable person crossing your arms and you cross your arms a lot, that's fine. But when you're having an important conversation with somebody you're in conflict with, maybe, if you really want to resolve the conflict, you've got to not have your arms crossed, because that's a message that you're sending them that you're closed to whatever they're saying. Also, if you are face-to-face talking with somebody you're in conflict with and you want to resolve the conflict, you don't want to be directly in front of that person. That's a combative stance. You want to be slightly offset. In person, I demonstrate this, and you'll just feel the difference in the energy when you're slightly offset from each other rather than head on. So what are some nonverbal cues that we haven't talked about yet that you have questions about or that you want to talk about?
No, this was pretty thorough, I have to say, just what I was hoping for. So thank you for all this.
Sure.
I tend to touch my face a lot just in general. I had bad acne growing up, but how do I mean, if those are like signs of deception, that's not really like what I want to put off. And then I try to use the technique of like putting my finger in front of my mouth so I don't keep interrupting people. So any other suggestions?
I find that touching your face is also a sign of insecurity. And so probably from your acting years, it was insecurity as well. And so I would just suggest make a conscious effort with your hands to not touch. Also keep in mind right now, right, with germs and everything else, touching your face is a really bad thing. And so just consciously tell yourself not to do that. Now I would probably find an anchor instead. And so if you ever have a habit you want to break, find an anchor. So for example, nobody's going to see this if your hands are down. Maybe you grab between your index finger and your thumb and you just kind of squeeze, and that's an anchor. And so regardless of what it is that the behavior you want to change, you just anchor that feeling. And anytime you have the desire to do something that you know is going to convey the wrong message, you just go back to that anchor instead. So distracted until you've broken the habit. Distract yourself from that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I do find that when people are touching or doing, I think it's insecurity. And the hair thing often is perceived as vanity, you know, when people are playing with their hair. I just think it's distracting. I don't really think, you know, what is this person doing? But I do think when people tend to hide their face, that it's insecurity. And whether you're hiding your face by touching it or anything else, it's insecurity. Hiding your hands is another thing that really, if you hide your hands, that is deception. So if I am conducting a job interview or I'm teaching people how to conduct a job interview, or I'm teaching people how to be a good job interviewee, I try to tell them to make sure that their hands are visible and that they do have some open hands. So hiding hands is not a good thing. Obviously on a Zoom, it's completely different.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk to me about, you know, well, I'm very expressive and I move my hands a lot. Is that a bad thing? It's really not a bad thing unless it's super distracting. It's normally not distracting. But yawning is, Nanette. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Ooh, it's hard to sit
No,
still for this.
I'm one of these really susceptible people. I just so want to yawn right now. I'm gonna have to yawn.
It's because you're empathetic.
Oh,
The research shows that
am.
if somebody yawns around you and you have a high level of
Yes.
empathy, you're more likely to yawn.
My
Yeah.
level of empathy is off the charts.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
and Finn both. He's empathetic.
I know he is. He's so sweet.
And I'll just add that.
When a dog yawns, by the way, that's normally them trying to calm somebody down,
Yeah. Or they're stressed.
or
right?
they're trying to calm themselves down.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll say that it's kind of separate from body language, but it's just so hard to hold still for a long time. Like I tend to fidget a little bit and it's very hard. I mean, because some people can sit there and like they're presenting, like you watch a press secretary on TV and they're just like this perfect still. And I'm like, damn, I don't know what practice they have done, but it's very impressive to watch people hold still.
Yeah, and I'm not so much like if somebody's fidgeting, I don't have a problem with that at all. You know, like drinking, eating, you know, moving. Or I really don't have a problem with that. Now, when I see someone leave the screen and we're in the middle of something, including me, it does like I'm like, huh, where'd they go? You know, but yeah. And so what you do in that is you turn your video off, which I think is good. But then I think, why'd the person turn their video off? Are they still with us? Are they, you know, is something going on? So, yeah, it is interesting being in a virtual world for sure. The next thing about connecting is that it's really all about others and not ourselves. So why do we focus on ourselves instead of others? One thing is immaturity. Well, maturity is the ability to see and act on behalf of others. Another is ego. I always say that people who display a seemingly high ego often are the most insecure people. So the bullies in the workplace, you know, the people who just seem to pump their chest, in actuality, they're really insecure. And they're often driven by fear. And then failure to value everyone. So don't forget these three incredibly important questions in any communication you have with other people. This is what they want to know. Do you care for me? Can you help me? And can I trust you? And if they think that you can't be trusted, then anything you say, even positive, is not going to be well received. So connecting goes beyond words, right? It's tone of voice and body language also, and how others believe what we say. Most of it has to do with body language. You know, think of the relay events and no words are needed. There are many communication breakdowns, unfortunately, that happen, and they have to do with the fact that thoughts, emotions, and actions are not in congruence with one another. And so when you have somebody who has an I know this kind of attitude, but I don't feel this, that's dispassionate. I know this and I don't do this. That's theoretical. I don't know this, but I feel this, that's unfounded. I feel this, but I don't I do not do this. That's hypocritical. I don't know this, but I do this. That is presumptuous. And I don't feel this, but I do this is mechanical. And I got distracted because I was thinking about some of the things that my mother said growing up, always kind of stay in my head. But she would always say, do as I say, not as I do. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? I think about some of the things that she said that really, when it comes to communication, people do what people see. People do what people see. And so if they see a leader doing something, that's what they're going to do. Think about maybe in a workplace where you've been, where the boss has a nose to the grindstone and 5 o'clock comes and they're still working. A lot of other people are going to still be working. They're going to push, the time as well. But if they're out of there at, 4:55, then everyone else will kind of do the same thing, thinking this is what's expected of them. But there are a lot of communication breakdowns. So again, they have to do with action, thought, and emotion, and they need to be in congruence with one another. If any of those is not, then it's going to mess up the experience of having effective communication. The fourth thing is energy. In order to connect with people, you have to have energy. And there are 4 unpardonable sins of a communicator: being unprepared, uncommitted, uninteresting, or uncomfortable. And 3 of the 4 require a lot of energy and effort. You need to have initiative. Go first. I always share the story of my dad here, because when I was young, we would be on the military base and we'd be walking along and he'd say, "How's it going, man? Hey, partner, what's up?" And I was like, "Dad, do you know him?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," I was so embarrassed, And now I find I do the same thing, really. I might not say partner, but I'm always like, I feel like you need to go first. Have clarity, prepare, especially for any difficult conversations. We all need to have more patience and slow down. Things don't get accomplished effectively when you're just going. Have selflessness, give. I don't think I need to tell people here, because you're all selfless people. But this is important. But also important is stamina. You have to recharge. So what are you doing now to recharge your batteries, to get that energy? What are you doing? Jackie, what are you doing? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, trying to look for ways to remove myself from always working situations. Like if I find that if I'm home, that I'm working, cleaning, gardening, whatever, all the many tasks we have at home, I try to look for things to do outside, hiking or, an outdoor event or something like that, that I would enjoy doing,
Good.
yeah, exactly.
Good. Very good.
Well, I'm not really good at that number 5, but but I
What
have
would you
been-
need to do to be better at it?
So what I've been doing is, and my coworker told me to do this, my boss actually, when I start thinking of all the things I need to do, it overwhelms me. And then I get ahead of myself and I start freaking out. And then he said, just focus on what is directly in front of you, and only that. Don't think past that. Don't think, 2 pages past. So even when I'm studying and I'm looking at how many more pages do I have left to read in this chapter? It's like, no, I'm just on this one page. And it's actually helped a lot with my anxiety. So it's good. It's a work in process.
That's great. And you know what? We're all works in process, right? We are all, nobody's where they need to be. If you think that, you're done. There's always room for improvement, but a big part of positively changing your life is having awareness about what needs to be done and then doing something about it. And you're doing it, and that's great. Joy, what about you? What do you do to recharge?
That's something that I'm working on daily right now. I'm not good at recharging. But my husband has made a comment for the last couple months about me being a workaholic. And so I've very intentionally started planning out my day and trying to make sure that I take at least 20 minutes with him at lunch. And because we both work at home, but more importantly, I try to make sure that my work day is done by 5 or 5:30. And then I'll let him know, hey, I have a live tonight at 8:30 or, whatever, so that he knows that these are scheduled items. So
Good.
I've not always been intentional about it, but I'm trying.
It's interesting that you mentioned intentional. I have a really good topic that I was thinking of doing for the next session about intentional living. Because I do think that so often we just kind of go through the motions of life and we're not being intentional. But that's good that you're making efforts. So connecting is more skill than natural talent. If you want to successfully connect with people, it involves relationships, who you know, ability, what you can do, sacrifice, what you've done, insight, what you know. And did I already say sacrifice? Success is what I meant before. Sorry, sacrifice. Sorry about that. My brain, sacrifice how you live. Yeah, the word sacrifice was ingrained in my head over success. So connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in a way that helps increase your influence with them. And remember, leadership is just influence, positive influence on other people, whether it's in your home, your church, your volunteer organization, your work, your family, whatever. The ability to communicate and connect with others is a major determining factor in reaching your potential. And so you need to learn to connect with people. The goal is to increase influence. Influence is leadership. Now, there are 3 ways to connect: one-on-one, in a group, or with an audience. And the smaller the group, the more important it is to connect. So, who do you influence? How do you influence others? I know this does not apply to you, but maybe some of you work with people who do this. Force, intimidation, manipulation, position, rather than exchange? Or is it persuasion, respect? How many people do you influence? When do you influence other people? Leaders or readers? What are you guys reading right now? What's everyone reading? Or what have you read in the past that's been really powerful and helpful? I know we mentioned books even in the last session.
Ironically, I'm reading a book that has been absolutely life-changing, and it's by Mel Robbins, and it's called The 5-Second Rule, and it is absolutely amazing.
Will you post that in our Leadership Academy group?
Sure.
Thank you. What's everyone else reading?
I'm really bad at reading. I buy books and then don't get to them. So that's going to be another thing that I would like to improve upon. However, the last book I bought was recommended by a really amazing person who sat next to me on an aircraft. He is like a Connecticut trooper, but he also is an instructor at their academy. And he told me to purchase a book called Widen the Window. It's a book that helps you understand perspective and psychology. And it was originally written to help people deal with traumatic events. But he said it is an exceptional book for so many reasons. And so I bought it, but I've yet to read it.
How long ago did you buy it, Nanette?
Just 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. So, and can you post that in the group as well?
Yes,
And
happy to.
Nanette, I am equally guilty of buying books and not reading them because it sits there and I think now's not a good time. But you know what helped me was I started doing audiobooks. And so I love it. And even if it's just a 10-minute drive somewhere, I'll listen to a piece of a book. And so I've got a road trip coming up, Wednesday through Saturday. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and download some good books for the ride. And I have found that to be incredibly helpful. And I'm still able to focus my mind on, on what matters, the traffic, but at the same time, get these great messages through these books. Any other thoughts on this?
So I've been listening to some podcasts, and about women in finance and about the wealth and gender gap between men and women. And so that's what I've been listening to recently.
Okay, that's great. Podcasts are awesome. Can you post in the group about the podcast you've been listening to?
Yeah.
Cool. So leaders sense teachable moments, breakthrough places, and catalyst times. Why do you influence others? Where do you influence others? Here are some insights into influence. Leadership is influence. Our influence with other people is usually not in all areas. When you influence others, you also have responsibility. Influence can be positive or negative. It can grow over time. And people of positive influence add value to other people. And I always say that great leaders only positively influence other people. So I hear the argument that Hitler was a great leader, and I beg to differ. I think that it has to be positive influence. 10 ways to increase influence. The first is trust, right? We've talked about trust a lot. Trust is absolutely critical if you want to have a good relationship with other people and you want to connect with them. Nurture, it doesn't mean coddle people. It means help grow the relationship. Have faith. Make sure that you trust the process, that you have faith in yourself and that you have faith in others. Here is the ladder method of listening. Look at the speaker, ask questions, don't interrupt, don't change the subject, engage with emotion, and respond when listening. Next is understand. And Jackie, I'm hoping you're still with us because I see one of the Jackies signed off. So hopefully you still have audio. Understand, seek to understand first and then to be understood. Next is enlarge, grow yourself, grow your people, and grow your organization. I talked about, I think it was in the last session, I talked about Tracy Bensley at Talquin and how impressed I was because he came in many years ago and he said, I'm interested in your leadership academy. And here's the thing with heads of organizations, they normally say, let's start here. It's always below them. Tracy said, I'm going to go through it first. And he did. And he had a great experience. He was the leader of the year that year. He had a great experience. And he then started sending his people. He started sending people that he thought were going to be great assets for Talquin who could grow with them. And so what did he do? He grew himself and he grew his people to grow the organization. To me, that is excellent reflection of a great leader. Next is navigate. Often people who are great leaders and want to influence others really know how to navigate the waters. They can see things before other people can. Connect is the next one. We talked a lot about connect. Equip. And I see there's some things in the chat, so I'm gonna, oh, okay, sorry. All right, got it, Jackie, sorry. So equip, I like the word equip a lot, and I find that people use the word empower too much. And equip is a great way to say that you're going to give people the tools and the resources to be successful. If you say empower, I've worked in organizations that claim to empower people, and it's just a word. You're not actually equipping people to be successful. Give them what they need to be successful. And the final one, way to increase influence is to reproduce. So 80% of leaders attract followers, 10% attract leaders, 5% of leaders reproduce other leaders. Let's move to connecting practices. Connectors find common ground among other people, but here are some barriers. Assumption, I already know what others feel, need, and want. Arrogance, I don't need to know what others know, feel, or want. Indifference, I don't care to know what others know, feel, or want. And control, I don't want others to know what I know, feel, or think. So finding common ground is key. Here are some really important ways to find common ground. And this is in your handout packet where there's some blanks, and you may want to fill in these blanks. But the first one is availability. I will choose to spend my time with others. Listening, I will listen my way to common ground. Questions, I will be interested enough in others to ask questions. Have you ever been to a networking event before where somebody just talks about themselves the whole time? They're not connecting, are they, at all? Really asking questions is the most important way to do that. Thoughtfulness, I will think of others and look for ways to help them. Openness, I will let people into my life. Likability, I will care about people. Humility, I will think of myself less so I can think of others more. And adaptability, I will move from my world to their world. And that was that movie that, we watched earlier, the video of the blind man holding the sign was a great example of adaptability. So finding common ground involves going first and then asking yourself, do I feel what you feel, or see what you see, know what you know, or know what you want? Next one is simplicity. Connectors do the difficult work of keeping it simple. There are 4 components to connecting through communication, and they are humor, heart, hope, and help. The 3 S's. All right, keep it simple, say it slowly, and have a smile. Did I ever tell you the story about when I worked in public radio? I worked with 2 guys. No, one had multiple sclerosis and was in a wheelchair, and the other had stage 4 cancer. And they were 2 of the best guys I ever worked with in my life. And they taught me so much. I was a teenager, and I was, believe it or not, very shy, very meek, not outgoing at all, very introverted. And I knew that I wanted to be, I don't know why, I wanted to be a television news reporter. And I think I wanted that field because I wanted to overcome 2 of my biggest fears: public speaking and being camera shy. So I started working in production to help me kind of get comfortable before making the transition. And WFSU FM and TV were 2 of my very first jobs in the industry. And so, and in the radio station, on like the first day on the job, these 2 guys were awesome. They knew what I wanted to do. They took me under their wing, and they put a microphone in front of me, and they had me record a public service announcement just so that I would have a taste of what it was like. And it went about like this. This program has been brought to you by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. And they played it back, and I'm like, oh, I'm terrible. It's just awful. I'm never going to succeed. And they're like, now do it again with a smile. I'm like, smile? Nobody on the radio can hear me smile. They said, want to bet? Go ahead. This program has been brought to you by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. And they played it back, and I was like, who is that? That people can definitely hear your smile. They can feel your smile. So the art of simplicity is talk to people, not above them. get to the point. I think of my mother when I think of the get to the point, because my mother can make a 2-minute story into, 50 minutes. I always would say short version, mom, short version. Say it over and over and over again, but not in the same way. Say it clearly and say less, because it complicates things when you say too much. How many of you have ever gotten that really long email? That really long email where you think you understand what the person wants in the first paragraph, and by the third one, you're like, whoa, what is happening here? Create an experience that everyone enjoys. How to be interesting. Take responsibility for your listeners. Communicate in their world. Capture people's attention from the start, and say it so it sticks. The fourth connecting practice is inspire. Connectors inspire people. Here's the inspiration equation. It's on your handout packet as well. But what people know plus what people see plus what people feel equals inspiration. So what do they need to know? They need to know that you understand them and that you are focused on them. Remember, focused on them, because we talked about distractions, right? They also need to know that you have high expectations of them. And forgive me for asking, because I can't seem to remember anything anymore, but did I ever tell you about my first management job in Bay County schools? No? So I was very young, like 23, and I had a master's degree in communication. And I was hired to be the instructional television manager. But when I got there, they told me that I had 8 extra guys. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I thought I was just doing instructional television. They said, you're now in charge of all computer cabling, audio visual equipment, and intercom systems for the district. And I said, but I don't know anything about those things. And so they said, here are your guys. Well, the guys were all older guys, mainly military, and they did not like me one bit. I was young, I was blonde, I was a woman. Okay. And I could just tell right away that they were not thrilled. Well, it turns out that they were the rejects from the maintenance department. They were guys that the maintenance department didn't want. And here comes this new administrator. And so they took the guy, it was a union. It's a union-based place. And so they couldn't get rid of them. So they just transferred them over to me and gave me the responsibilities. And with them came approximately 200 plus work orders that were past due, months past due. And so I said, oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'm just going to deal with it as best I can. And so I learned a lot from my dad, and he just always told me just to work alongside of people, show them respect. And so that's what I did. I asked them questions. I sat with each of them one-on-one, listened to them vent about how unhappy they were that they were working with me. And I said, look, I'm never going to know everything you know about intercom systems or anything else. Teach me what I need to know and let me do what I can to be a good supervisor. And so I talked to them with respect. I learned to use a hydraulic bender, a ditch witch. I climbed 150-foot towers and changed down converters. I did what they did so that I would understand what was involved. And as I was working alongside of them, they started to respect me. And we started knocking out work orders. We started really getting the work orders nailed. And suddenly 200 became 100, became 50, became 30, and then we were caught up. And this group of guys that were the rejects became a high-performing team. And why do you think that is? I raised the bar for them. I showed them respect. I had high expectations of them. I didn't think, oh, they're the rejects. They're not ever going to go above this little bar down here. I thought these are guys with, 30, 40 years of experience. And I just need to give them whatever they need to succeed. So I started asking them, like, what tools do you need? What's missing? when we finally had money in the budget to purchase a new vehicle, I had been driving an unair conditioned bucket truck, and the expectation, which was very clear to me from other administrators, was you were going to buy yourself a nice new vehicle. And I said, I'm happy in my unair conditioned bucket truck. It's my guys who need it more than me. So I got them a vehicle. You know, they felt respected, they felt valued, and I raised the bar. So, and there was one guy of the 8 that never came around, by the way. He was so mad because he had applied for the job and he thought he should have had it. And in his words, education makes you stupid. And the only reason he thought he didn't get it was because I had a higher level of education. But anyway, what do people need to see? They need to see your conviction and your example. And I mentioned before that people do what people see. So they definitely are going to do what their leader does. And what do they need to feel? They need to feel your confidence in yourself and in them, and your gratitude for them. So connectors live what they communicate. And this is the final point about connecting practices. In the first 6 months, communication overrides credibility. And after that, credibility overrides communication. I like this quote. Credibility is currency for leaders and communicators. With it, they are solvent. Without it, they are bankrupt. So here's the credibility checklist. I want you to think about this. Have I connected with myself? Have I made right my wrongs? Am I accountable? Do I lead like I live? Do I tell the truth? Am I vulnerable? Am I following the golden rule? And I want to tell you something. I was enlightened not too long ago about the golden rule. I always have been a fan of the golden rule, and this is John Maxwell's list. But somebody enlightened me in something I was reading, and it's true. Instead of saying, treat others as you would like to be treated, or do unto others as you would have them do unto you, treat others as they would like to be treated, right? Because just because I want to be treated a certain way doesn't mean that the other person wants to be treated that way. So I'm kind of modifying that. It's really not just about the golden rule. It's about respecting other people's wishes and treating them the way they want to be treated. And then, do I deliver results? So what do you think about this checklist, this credibility checklist? And does anyone resonate with you?
Yeah, it's definitely a new twist on these kind of checklists for sure. And it's more thoughtful for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the ones that tends to get people a lot is, have I made right my wrongs?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, my house is shaking. So I hope he's okay. That's the, I thought it was going to be changing a coax tape cable. The guys in the attic right now, it's like, it's really hot. He's got to be burning up. Anyway, all of a sudden the whole house started rumbling just now. But so yeah, so the making right my wrongs thing, and just thinking about, maybe you've had an argument with somebody, maybe things are not right with somebody right now, and you would like them to be, and you go to that person and have that conversation and see what you can do to make things right, especially if it's something you did. Any other thoughts on this before I move on?
I have a clarification of do I lead like I live?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Well, so a lot of people have compartmentalized their lives, and they lead in a certain way and they live a different way. And so there's a disconnect, and in many cases it's almost two people. Like, you present yourself in one way to people you work with, and you're different at home. Even little things like the respect that you show to people in the workplaces versus at home. Sometimes we take for granted the people that are closest to us. And so, it really is about having, instead of compartmentalizing your life, about being your authentic self, regardless of where you are, if it's in your workplace or your home. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you apply all of this? When communicating, you want to find common grounds, make communication simple, capture people's interest, inspire others, and be your authentic self. And you need to include thought, what you know, emotion, what you feel, and action, what you do. My kitty, who's blind, just started licking my toes. I was like, what is happening? Sorry. Working from home always has interesting things. And then you want to make sure that you connect on 4 levels: visually, intellectually, emotionally, and verbally. So what I'd like you to do now is go to your action plan and think about the things that we've talked about so far and come up with a couple things that maybe you're thinking about doing and when you're going to do them by. What are you going to do to connect with people better, including yourself? Okay. Everyone see the action item? You just go ahead and write a couple things down. We're all back. So what did you come up with? Who wants to go first?
I did a daily, weekly, and monthly action item, daily meditation. It's something I've been meaning to do, even just 5 minutes every morning. And then I took your reading to make a weekly reading list. So I'd like to read some every week. And then a monthly accountable list, like I'll be accountable for example, exercising, more than 1 time a week or whatever that looks like.
I love it. Be more specific about more than 1 time a week. How many days a week are you going to exercise?
Okay. A measurable goal.
Yes. I love it though. That's really good.
Thank you.
Joy or Jackie?
So one of my action items is going to be show the gratitude for my field guys. It's one thing just to, we do try to verbally express like, hey, you guys are doing a good job. but sometimes it's also nice to, display, I don't know, how do you say this? Like showing your gratitude, like buying them lunch or buying them breakfast, like just, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Thanks so much in those situations. We've got a lot of big projects going on. I feel like it's one of those things that probably should be, expressed with how hard they've been working. Another is we had a new superintendent come in since March, and I kept meaning to kind of connect with him just to build relationships within work. And I haven't done that yet. I haven't really reached out to him, so I feel like I should. And then taking more moments just to breathe. Yeah. I've got some date specifics. So
Is there something that you use to help you with breathing? Do you, like, I use my Apple Watch and I have a breathing app. I mean, I just use the breathing app, and I do it every night before bed. Is there something like a tool that you use, or do you use a 4-7-8 method of breathing, or what do you do?
I've been doing the 4-box, but it's usually when I'm already stressed. And so I'm thinking maybe I should just add it in there and maybe it'll reduce it overall.
Yeah, I think what you need to do. You need to be more proactive instead of reactive. Because when you're reactive, you're already in that high stress point, and you have the ability to not get yourself there if you start doing things more proactively. Being kind to yourself, taking care of yourself. Okay. Very good. Joy, what about you?
I put making reading a priority, and that starts today. And then I have a team page that I just created the graphics for, but I haven't started it up. I wanted to do it by Friday, but things just hit the fan. So that is by Tuesday. And then speak each family person's love language, and that's by the 30th of each month.
I love that. And I think I can kind of interpret what it is you want to do, but can you expand on that a little bit about speaking each other's love language, each family member's love language?
So my son is very much words of affirmation. And he's moving home on Thursday. So I want to make sure that I'm consciously connecting, with him on a verbal level. My youngest daughter is a gifts girl. If you give her something, doesn't matter what it is or how small, she's just, over the moon. And then my oldest daughter is much more personal time oriented. So I need to make a priority to go to her house and work on a project that she wants to do because I'm always too busy.
That's beautiful, Joy. I love it. I love it. Love it. That's awesome. And I know you've talked about your son in the past, and I'm so glad that he's coming home. And I know it's going to be hard.
It is going to be challenging.
Yeah, I know. But I hope that he feels loved and that he gets some help, and that, things start to turn around and be really positive for him.
We do too, for sure.
I really like all of your action items. They're excellent. Heather's call must have gone long, so I miss her. And Anything else you'd like to add to the conversation or anything we haven't covered yet? I do have more content if you would like it.
I really wanted to share that email with you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, my brain. Okay, so I made you a co-host so you can share. So please share.
Yay.
And then we're gonna, I love it. I actually really love, so go ahead, you take control. I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen right now.
So I went to research that and
Just,
then my
just
computer
look at the
crashed,
green button on the bottom where it says share screen and click it.
right?
Okay. And then you should see different windows that you can share. And so you're gonna wanna share the email, assuming you have it open, which I'm sure you do.
Well, I thought I did. Can I reduce the size of these windows? Yes.
So while you're working on that, no, to me, this is awesome when people bring really specific examples. I did include in the handout packet information on, chat etiquette and email. And I have very strong feelings about email and how good and bad it can be because I've seen firsthand things get out of control. But if you can't do it, Joy, I'll bring.
Doing it.
Yay. Okay.
Let me
So
go back
hit,
to you.
yeah, and then hit share screen. And then select the correct window.
So you're just a little tiny window. And I need to do the full screen again.
Right. If you just hit share screen and then select that little tiny window, it should
There
do
we
it.
go. And it's the email's not coming up.
Okay, so let me do it on my end and then you can just talk us through it. Let me-
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And then we'll do a session leader where I can walk you through it because it is really important to do that.
Right.
Okay.
So the back history to this is that with our vendor events that my husband and I have been doing together, it's with Vintage Market Days, and they're very well known all over the country for, it's kind of like a really high-end flea market, if that makes sense. And a typical vendor will spend about $200 a table for a weekend. When I tried to get in, my cost is $585 rather than $200 because I am a sponsor. Okay, what's a sponsor? That just means that because Color Street is my umbrella, they already have a publicized name. They have they already market, if that makes sense. And so my table is almost 3 times more than a typical vendor, right? So right here, right below where your cursor is, where it says the 550 direct sales sponsorship, can you see my cursor or no?
No. No,
Okay.
you have to share your screen in order for us to see it. Just tell me where to point.
Okay, so where it says 550 director sales sponsors, yeah. So those qualifications or what they give you is 10 by 10 booth, company exclusivity, allows up to 3 different direct sales companies, for early buying tickets, company logo or VMD, individual franchise. So you guys see everything in black and white, what we're supposed to get as a sponsor, right?
Right.
So
I'm so sorry.
no, you're fine. We'll just
The technician's at the door. Just a moment.
no worries. I am going to run and refill my glass real quick, guys. I'll be right back.
I'll do the same.
I'm back.
So we went to refill her cup. So
Okay,
if you would
great.
like to say.
No worries. Thank you guys for bearing with me today.
Easy breezy.
Thank you. So Joy, you were saying?
Okay, so it basically gives 6 or 7 items that are included in that sponsorship, right?
Right.
So when we did the vendor event that was the time before last, it was an incredible bomb. It was the first one that we've ever had that was horrible. The sales were horrible. Every single vendor had an issue. There was no marketing of the event. I mean, it was just not a good scenario. So I went back to VMD and I felt graciously said, hey, as a sponsor, I'm told that my logo is supposed to be posted, that for 6 months it will be advertised, yada, yada, all of these things, right? So the email, let's see, were you able to pull that one up?
Did you send another one? I think this
Oh,
is,
yeah, that was just, let's see.
I think this is the only one I got. You want to send
So
me?
right under, there's 2 links. So the first one is the jot form.
Yes.
And that's what we're on. The second one should be the emails.
It's probably going to be your personal box and I'm not going to be able to see it. See?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you have
All
to,
right,
you have
let
to
me-
actually copy it.
I'm gonna downsize just for a second
Okay.
because I think I will
You could
be
even just
able-
copy it and put it in the chat box, you know?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy enough.
So guys, is it thundering on your side of town? Because it is here.
Yep, it
But
is.
some of the shaking of the roof was not just him in the attic. It was thunder.
Yeah, it's been raining.
Ben's got his
for-
animal therapy evaluation in 2 hours. So
Okay, I'm almost there, guys. Okay, so this was her email to me. And then I'll show you my response.
okay.
And I tried to make sure that it was not too lengthy. Let me go back and get mine while you guys are reading that.
Okay. Yeah, let us focus. Okay.
Okay, here it is. Come on, technology.
Hmm.
There we go. Okay. So with all that being said, we had a horrible show and it hurt the business. We had fuel expenses, we had lodging expenses, meal expenses. And when I went back to them and said, these are all issues that we're having, can you help me understand? I didn't pull that email up, but I said to Carol, I said, can you help me understand as a sponsor why we're not having the logo displayed, why we're not having posts? Chalk Couture is, Cutco is, and there was another one, all 3 of them being MLMs as well, right? So what I got as a response was, well, they're not MLMs. So here was my response to her, and then I'll tell you the rest of it.
and I'm just gonna, while you're looking for that, I have to do a quick 3:15. I'm hoping it's 5 or 10 minutes and I'll be back, ladies.
Well, we're ending at 3:30, so,
Okay, yep. Hopefully, I mean, but I'm hoping mine is only a 5-minute.
okay.
A sheriff called me this morning and that was his only time frame to talk about a crisis.
Oh,
And so
no.
it
Okay.
should be pretty speedy.
I don't know. Crises are not always speedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So have you pasted it in there?
Yeah, do you guys not see
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Because we were not advertised at all, not visited on or anything of that nature, felt misled and taken advantage of. There was not one difference between us and a regular vendor. They were charged accordingly as much as we feel for our money. The only value in there. Okay. So you're basically telling her why you don't want to do business with them again.
Well, with that show specifically.
Right.
We're still doing BMDs, but just not that area.
Right.
So I went on, we're doing a show this coming weekend in Perry, Georgia. And I went on the Vintage Market Days of Central Georgia website, and Color Street is not listed anywhere. So I sent, and I'm going to pull this up so you guys, so I'm telling you exactly. So I sent Lynn, which is the owner of that franchise. I said, good morning, Lynn. I hope you're doing well and in all of this craziness that's going on. I keep scrolling through the VMD Georgia website, but I'm not finding Color Street on there as a sponsor in being marketed at all. Am I missing something? Thank you. And then she responded with, I'm told that because you're MLM, we don't do sponsor posts. So that's what they're telling me is we're not gonna.
Yeah. Then they
Okay.
need to refund your money.
So I said, that's not true. Cutco and Chalk Couture are both MLMs. And if that's the case, why am I paying $585 per table and getting a sponsor sign to put out as well? Now we're double, you know. So I said, and just to be clear, this has nothing to do with you personally. I really enjoy our friendship and I love your shows because it is one of the most phenomenal shows. She said, okay, let me talk to corporate. That's where I get my info. In the meantime, I screenshotted Cutco MLM review, Chalk Couture MLM review. And she said, no problem, I understand. This is their response, she said. We do have exceptions. As stated before, Chalk Couture is one of those. Cutco has not always been an MLM to my understanding. The reason corporate made that decision has to do with industry, relevance, etc. If she signed a contract for an MLM sponsorship, there would be no indication in writing that she would receive such posts. She is paying that fee to be able to participate in your event. If she were not a sponsor, she would not be allowed to participate since there is no vendor category that applies. I hope that this clarifies. So what you're telling me is we've made an exception for one MLM and actually two because Cutco is also one, but not for Joy, who's Color Street. They also say there's no refunds available. So I was so pissed off 5 minutes before we got on this thing that I was just, but I made up my mind. I was not going to respond at all until I went through this class and figured out what a.
Okay. The contract you signed.
Yes.
Was what? Did you look at that contract?
Yeah, it's the one that I sent to you guys. That's actually.
And it did not say anything about MLM, right?
What?
It didn't have anything about MLM, right?
Yes, hold on.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to go right back to it. Here it is. Okay, so I'll just send you guys screenshots.
Yeah, because I'm not seeing it in the email that I displayed before. I'm not seeing the exception about MLM.
Okay, so this one. You know what? If you click on that jot form in the email,
okay,
That's the whole form.
Okay.
And
me
it's
see if I can-
actually called VMD
Okay,
MLM Home Business Sponsor
Let me
Contract.
pull it up. Yes. Right. And there it is,
Right there in black and white.
right there in black and white. You know what I would say? Thank you so much for pointing out the contract, per the contract entitled MLM Home Business Sponsorship Contract. I am entitled to the following things. Okay, because I'm not seeing any exceptions, right? Are there any exceptions? Let's look at right here. No, I do not see any exceptions. Wait a second, hang on, terms and conditions. Okay, let's make sure it's not in here.
Does it come up?
Operations, parking, internet, assignment of contract. Liability, indemnification. Merchandise, here we go. Collection of vendors, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I don't see it yet. I don't see anything, do you?
I read through it twice this morning.
Yeah,
Trying to be very thorough.
yeah,
There's nothing that
yeah,
says,
I don't see anything either. MLM,
if that were the case, they should say,
no,
you know, Fuller Street would be an exception because.
yeah,
yada, yada.
okay. So I remove emotions from it. I'm glad you did not respond right away. Come on in. Are you okay? Now it's pouring down rain. Were you on the roof? Okay, all right. So sorry. So I'm glad you didn't respond right away. Anytime you feel emotion with an email, the best thing to do is not respond right away. But I would be very businesslike with it. And I would say, thank you for pointing out the contract entitled VMD MLM, right? I have thoroughly read the contract and there is absolutely no exception made for MLMs. Therefore, the following items, and I would copy all of these things, are expected for the payment price of $550. These things were not provided. Therefore, I would at least expect a partial refund. I really would. There is
Yeah.
nothing in here. And so, and I would say thank you. And, you know, I look forward to doing business with you in the future if there is clarity in the contract about what is expected. And if there are going to be exceptions for MLMs made, then I need to know what in your policies allow those exceptions. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. And if you want me to read it over before you send it,
Yes.
yeah,
Doesn't it need to be a written policy too?
yes.
Like they can't
That's
just
why
say
that's
it.
why I
has to be a
specifically
written
mentioned
policy?
policies. Yes, I guarantee you they don't have a policy. And so that when you say it in the right way, they're going to feel very like, oh crap, she's right. We don't have a policy. We made an exception. There's nothing in this contract that says anything about you will not receive these things. In fact, to me, it's very clear that it's telling you you will receive these things.
Right.
And so I would even make mention of the title of the contract specifically has MLM in it, right?
Right.
And so there is no exception. I see nothing, even in the fine print, that says that you should not have this. And just to be safe, because this is an electronic form, I would go ahead and screenshot and copy everything so that they don't try to change.
Change it.
Yes. Okay. So do that before you send your message to them.
Okay.
Okay.
I need to learn how to screenshot it.
Just Google, it'll be easy. It's really easy.
Okay.
But even what you could do even is just copy and paste it, you know?
Right. I tried to do that and it wouldn't let me, but I was also very angry.
I'll do it for you.
So I was going to print it up and it would just come up as just the link dot form, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't produce anything. So I was like, oh my gosh, these people are. But I told my husband, I said, you know, if we had an attorney in the family, I would be taking this to the family member and saying, how do I respond in a legal way? Because I feel like they go up against the wrong company and somebody's going to sue them for this.
Yeah. No, I think that you've got to be very, and it's not letting me copy. It looks like it's protected from copying. It's not protected from screenshotting though. So I would screenshot it. I did attempt to copy the fine print. Let me just try it one more time in a different way with different technology and see if I got it. I got it. Okay, I'm sending
You
it.
did?
I did. I got it. I'm sending it to you. Okay,
I was
I
like,
just
oh,
sent it
I
to you.
got to screenshot this before they change
Yep,
it.
I got it. So I'm gonna send you two different emails. One is gonna have the fine print, and then the other one is going to have, the master print. And then you'll have both, okay? And then I want you to just be very careful in the way you reference it and be very non-emotional in your response to refer to that contract with the title. And yeah, I would even say thank you for pointing out the MLM contract. I've thoroughly examined the contract and there is absolutely therefore I expect, and be very clear about your expectations. I expect a refund, I expect a partial refund, whatever. I would personally, I would ask for a full refund.
Yeah,
I'd ask for a full refund and don't interject emotion into it.
right,
Okay.
right. So I shouldn't go to that franchise owner at this point. I should go directly to corporate since they're the ones that make those decisions.
The woman you've been communicating with, who you said was a friend,
Yeah,
is
she's the one that owns the really good shows that we love.
I mean,
But
I would keep her in the loop and then I would go to corporate. I would respond to corporate and ask for a refund. Who did you do the contract negotiation with? Who did you do the contract with?
Vintage Market Days.
So I would go
But
straight to
see,
them.
what they do is you have the ability to click on each individual show and apply for it.
Sure.
And then that franchise owner can approve you or not. So it's those franchise owners, discretion, whether they have another Color Street consultant or they don't want them or whatever.
I mean, I would be inclined to, at this point, respond to the kind person who you like. And I would let her know that you have read the contract and you intend to correspond with them to ask for a refund. And that you have thoroughly read the contract and is there, ask her if there is a protocol for this. And if she says, I would suggest emailing so-and-so, whatever, that's what I would do. I would keep her in the loop, especially if she's a nice person and want to continue to do business with.
Yeah. And this is the last thing, because I certainly don't want to take up too much time. We're closing, but when this originally happened, and I could pull it up, but not right now. I actually emailed corporate after that bombed show and told them these things did not take place and, what was the reason for it? And they gave me some BS answer for it. So I've just sat on it for a little bit. And so now prior to this show, I'm of course looking at it and examining the fact that, again, we're not being, marketed or displayed whatsoever. So, and I'm friends with quite a few of the franchise owners. And the last one that I spoke with, I said, Julie, we're friends. Can we be confidential about this? And she's like, absolutely. And I said, I am not cutting down any one person. This is across the board. I'm having an issue. And I told her what happened. And she said, oh yeah. She said, I know that's happening because I called so-and-so and said, we're 1 month out from the Jacksonville show and Joy's not being promoted at all. And they said, oh, well, we don't promote Color Street. And she responded with, well, Chalk Couture, Cutco, all of these different MLMs you are. And they just said, we make exceptions for them. So they specifically told her, and it's not against me, I don't think.
I don't think so either, but I think that they need to be called out. And I think you do need to ask for policies, right? If they are making exceptions, then you need to have you need to request a copy of the policy that states what the specific exceptions are allowable.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you're gonna find out is they don't have any policies and they're just gonna bow. I think they're just gonna give you your money back.
And they'll probably cut me out of the other shows.
They have no right to do that.
I don't think so either.
You know, and if you don't want that to happen, I think you just need to end on a positive note and say, you know, I want to continue to do business with you, but I want to make sure that we're clear. And this contract that I signed specified that I would receive the following things, which I did not receive.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I think everyone's hurting right now for sponsors. I don't think you're going to be cut out. I think
You
if they
don't?
make, no, I think if they make things right, then they're gonna welcome you into other shows, and they're gonna make sure that they get their language cleaned up in those contracts.
I hope so, because I don't know of one franchise owner that doesn't love me. And I'm not being egotistical,
Yeah,
but I'm very intentional about relationships with the
Right.
franchise owners, with customers.
so
know.
respond to the woman who helped you before. And ask her if she has a suggestion, and then start working on that. I did send you both, I've sent you 2 emails, capturing everything that's in that contract. And then start working on a response, okay? And then if you do, send it to me tonight, and then you'll plan to get it to them tomorrow. But I've been doing contracts for many, many years, and I can tell you that contract it's crap for them saying that they promised you certain things that they didn't do in that contract.
Yeah.
And therefore you are entitled to, at the very least, a partial refund. I would ask for a full refund.
Right. Yeah, for that show, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Heather, welcome back. How did your meeting go?
Well, did not hold true to the time they said they were going to.
Aw,
It's also very concerning for a 25-year-old database that's going away, and it's already over past due dates. So this is,
oh my goodness.
yeah, it's gonna be fun, but it's another project.
Right.
So.
Well, I had more that I was going to cover, but I will not do that at this time. I'm going to respect everybody's time and say thank you for being here. And I hope you got a lot out of today and interacting with each other. And we definitely need to pick a time for September, but there's only 3 of you here right now. So I'll try to do it in our group. Okay. All right. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank
Jackie,
you.
you got to say something, Jackie?
No, just saying
Okay.
thank you and big virtual hug.
Aw, thank you guys. All right, you take care.
All right, see ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.